Hello and welcome to Future Projections. This is episode 133 of the show. This is a Baseball America podcast. I'm Carlos Glazo, joined by Ben Badler. What's going on, Ben?
I think you know what's going on, Carlos. It was a great week with the draft. How was it? How was it being there live in Atlanta?
It was a lot of fun, great to finally see it happen. I thought the environment on our side set for the actual draft was a lot of fun because we had just a lot of like fans walking by and like asking us about the draft or just chatting. So that was like a cool spot to be in the middle of the battery where we were set up for the
During the show, they had people just like near you talking to you in the
Yeah,
middle of the
so I
draft.
mean, they weren't actually talking to us in the middle of the draft, but especially when we weren't live, like there would be people that would like take pictures and stuff. And like there were some Nationals fans who walked by and they were like waving, like they clearly recognized either me or Jim or Lance or Melanie, who was on the side set. And for one of them, I was like, "Oh, who do you guys want number one?" And they were like, "Ethan Holiday." I was like, "Oh," I was like, they're like, "We'll take Kate Anderson." I was like, "Oh," they're like, "Just not Eli Willis." And I was like, "Oh gosh." This was before, I think it was when we were doing the pre-draft show, and there were starting to be more rumblings of Eli Willis potentially. But no, we were in. I think this is where the Braves do their pre and post game shows. They've got a little set out just kind of in the middle of the battery by all the restaurants and all the stuff, so people can kind of walk by right near where we were at. And then for rounds 2 and 3, me and Jim went into the main desk to do those inside the Roxy Theater where they had it. Which when we went in, there were like no people there, but I guess they had a bunch of people inside the actual studio for the first round. So I thought it was good. I thought it was a fun draft. How was it from your POV?
I thought it was good. I'm doing our live analysis of the picks as they come in for the first round, and then through
Hmm.
where the Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers picked the 38 to 40. So I'm
Basically every
listening.
team's first pick.
Yeah, so I'm listening to the draft, but I'm not really closely focusing on watching it. So I see some of it, but
Right.
I thought it was good. Yeah, I mean, I thought obviously the stuff that you and Jim and Jonathan bring is really strong, and Lance too, because you guys really obviously do this full time for diving into the draft picks. Tony V is entertaining. I think who did he comp? I think it was Andrew Fisher to Vinny Chase. So
Oh yes. Some of the
I
comps
enjoyed.
are crazy.
Well, to comp him to a fictitious character is
Yes.
enjoyable,
Oh, I
but
mean, we only had, I think it was like 5 minutes into the show where a Corey Seager comp was dropped. I really just want to retire the Corey Seager comp in general. I feel like it's almost become the most useless comp now because all it means is you're tall, you're left-handed, and you play shortstop currently. Like that's
well,
all the comp means.
you can drop that one when somebody drafts Tyler
Oh
Spangler in the
God,
first round next
please
year.
no. Let's please not hear that comp. Okay. Yeah, I did want to address though, like there's been, I guess it's just like we're in silly season for narratives and storylines now. And one of the things that I've noticed coming out of the draft is people talking about the lack of players in attendance at the draft this year. So if you didn't notice, there were no players in attendance this year. It sounded like there were a few who had reached out when MLB Network is trying to like find out who's actually coming. And because it was only like a couple guys that actually expressed some interest, they were just like, "Don't worry about it. We don't want to have just like one or two here. Just we're not going to have anyone this year." And now this has become some indictment on the draft, and I just cannot express how strongly I do not care if players actually come to the draft at all. I don't think that it makes for any of a worse product. I don't think it is an indictment on the draft itself. There are very logical, rational reasons why players wouldn't want to actually be at the draft on draft day. It makes sense from the agency side as to why you would um, advise your players not to go to the draft. I think, at least from my POV, and I understand that I maybe get like a different sort of feedback on the broadcast than maybe other people do, but I have never once heard people saying, you know what the draft broadcast really needs? We need more player interviews in person at the draft. Like I always think they're always a little bit awkward, a little bit uncomfortable to watch. Like sometimes we'll get really entertaining players like Chase Petty. I feel like I remember him having a really good interview. He was just fun to see. But like a lot of the times, it's just these like really quick, kind of odd interviews for all these players who are there in their suits. And I actually think we are able to see the players celebrate draft day with all the remote setups that all the top players have. Like seeing Tyler Bremner celebrate getting picked second overall, we saw that happen in real time, and it was a really cool moment. And so I don't think it's any less exciting to see them celebrate that where with their friends and family at home in a controlled environment where they can take all these phone calls that I'm sure are happening in the lead up to the draft and while the draft is happening. And so it really feels like to me, this is only something that the networks themselves and people associated with the networks and the broadcast care about. But please tell me if I'm wrong, if you think that there are people who want more in-person player interviews at the draft, or you think it adds to the broadcast in some way. Because for me, this is the biggest non-story in the world.
I didn't even really notice, and again, I have a different perspective on it because I'm writing furiously during the draft and trying to collect my thoughts and analyze the first rounds in real time. But I didn't even really notice that there were no players there, except that I think JJ had mentioned before the draft that there were no players there, which did surprise me. But during the broadcast, it wasn't. I wasn't like, oh, this is really lacking players in person there.
Mhm.
The player interviews, you see them all. Like we're not hearing from the players. They're all getting interviewed after they get
Right.
picked. Some of them more articulate than others. Seth Hernandez definitely stood out for um, just being a very polished speaker. I guess just polished in everything he does. So, um, but yeah, I like seeing the players celebrating at home. I mean, I don't care where they are, but I like seeing them celebrating with their friends and their family, which you
Mhm.
can't really get. Like you're, what are you gonna do? Like, is Seth Hernandez going to take his whole family and all of his friends from California and fly out to Atlanta? No, like logistically, it's easier just to have everybody at home in one spot, and you get to see that. So I don't mind. I do think you said there were players who wanted to be there, and MLB said don't come.
I don't know how it was phrased. I don't know if they said don't come, but they invited a couple and only a few. So maybe they said, "Hey, we only got such and I don't know the specific details. I just know that they only had a couple people say they wanted to show up, and they might have said, "Hey, you're going to be like one of the only players." So I have no idea in terms of the details, but yeah,
Yeah.
that
So if
was.
if the players heard that and then said, "Well, we don't want to show up," then okay, that's one thing.
I
If
can't
if
imagine
MLB is
MLB. I
saying
can't imagine MLB said no. You absolutely can't come. If they were like, "Oh, we really want to come," I imagine they would have let them.
maybe if they did say like, "Hey,
There's
like
no reason for me to
don't
think they told
bother,"
them don't you can't come. Like there's no reason for
okay.
us to
If they
think that.
did, I think that would be.
Right, but
I would not be on board with that. I think if a player wants to show up, he should show up
sure.
to the draft. But if they don't, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know that it doesn't feel like it ever adds anything to the broadcast for me to see a player. I don't know what up there shaking hands with Rob
Putting
Manfred.
on the jersey,
Do
yeah,
people
I
want to
don't
see
know.
more of Rob Manfred? Is that anybody's complaint? I don't
I
know.
cannot
Don't
possibly
get the
tell you
sense
what
he's
the
super popular.
justification is, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if they find a way to get more players there, fine. But I don't view it as a huge loss or any loss really to not have
No.
them
I mean,
there.
it also I don't know if this is a factor at all for you, but it keeps the pace pretty good. When their players in-house get drafted, the draft basically comes to a halt, so we can do all the in-person things,
Hmm.
which makes sense if they're there to you wanna give them their time if they do show up, but, I have to imagine the pace is quite a bit better this year in the first round because we didn't stop at all for that stuff, just the remote interviews. It's a
I
lot
didn't
quicker to do
think
that.
I didn't think about that. I did feel like the pace was good this year. Again, I'm not the
That
most
the only reason
representative.
I, like, know about that is because like, when we're doing the actual broadcast, they're like, "Alright, and then if a player is picked, we get X amount of time where the draft is paused." So, like, I'm just kind of aware of the logistics in the background going on, and we didn't have any of that this year. So, the remote interviews are much easier to get in and out of without slowing the draft down. At least I believe that's the case.
Yeah,
So
so it's fine. I mean, with other sports, is that I don't really follow other sports, but I take it what NBA, NFL,
yeah. Well, the biggest
NHL.
I mean,
There
I
are
think the
all the
biggest
players are there.
difference I've heard the NHL draft is more similar to baseball draft. I can't speak to that. I can speak more to the NFL and the NBA. I mean, I think the biggest thing is all of the players in those drafts are signing. Like you don't have the high school players are there and involved in the draft, but you don't know if they're going to sign. Like the whole signability element of baseball's draft is just so much more different than the NFL and the NBA.
But
Um,
the college players like Liam Doyle and Jamie Arnold and Tyler Britt, like those guys all know they're going to sign. It's more and
sure,
Eli Willits, Ethan Holiday.
yeah,
What
yeah. I
was
just
it?
think the
Ethan
soft slotting
Holiday going to
nature of
pretend that like he might not
right, yeah,
sign.
there are players in every draft that you know are definitely going to sign and they're going to go. But I just think the soft slotting nature of baseball's draft, the eligibility of baseball's draft compared to the NBA and the NFL, just makes it different to a degree that it makes sense to not show up for the draft. So I think that that is certainly a factor. If you're showing up at the draft and agents think that you being there is going to lose you leverage and therefore money, it makes all the sense in the world for them to advise you not to go there. Their job is to get you the best deal they possibly can. If they think you showing up at the draft, I mean, I've literally heard this from the mouth of college coaches. They're like, "Hey, oh, my guy's going to the draft. I guess he doesn't want to come to college." Like, I mean, you can probably get a pretty good read on which of the high school players want to go to school and want to sign, but that is a factor, and we can't just ignore it. So it just makes sense. There are just a lot of reasons why it makes sense for the players wouldn't want to show up to the draft, and I'm not at all bothered by it. I think if we've got videos of the players, we can talk about the players, we can see them actually celebrate. It's great. We have technology for a reason. It's a wonderful thing.
Agreed.
Cool. All right, let's get into the actual players then. I think today we're planning to go team by team, basically talk about the picks, talk about the draft, talk about the classes for all these players. Unless there's anything else you want to mention before we get into that, I guess we could just jump off with the Nationals.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the Nationals drafting Eli Willits first overall?
Yeah, apparently this is being described as a stunner throughout the industry, which I gotta say kind of annoys me because I feel like for multiple months now, every time we've had a mock draft, we've mentioned Eli Willis's name. He ranks number 3 on our draft board. It's Ethan Holiday, Seth Hernandez, Eli Willis on our board. Um, and it just feels like I don't know, people don't read the mock draft. I wish they actually would. You can get a lot of information on what teams might be doing, but I think it makes a ton of sense. I mean, we had talked before, like if we were picking hitters in this class, I think both Peter and myself said that Eli Willis would be the pick. Um, it was cool to see draft history, the youngest ever 1-1 player selected. We knew that we had a chance for that to happen, and it actually does now. So um, I like the pick. I think it's fun. It sounds like Eli is really excited to try and get to the majors as quickly as he can, and with the age that he has a chance to get there at a pretty young age. He again, it's a really well-rounded game. I think it does feel like the Nationals are targeting players with contact skills, maybe more than they have in the past. They
Yep.
signed, or they haven't signed, but they drafted Eli Willits first overall. They took Ethan Petrie in the second round, who's a fairly bat forward college profile, kind of similar to like a Tommy White or Devin Taylor sort of profile. And then Coy James was the big pick for them in the fifth round, a player we ranked top 50 on the board. Kind of similar flavor of profile as Eli Willits, not quite as athletic, and I don't think the secondary tools are quite as loud, but it is very much a hit first, solid power, not huge power. I'm fairly bullish on Coy. I think I probably like Coy more than most people on staff. But again, this was a player who, if he went in the 20s on draft day, I would not have been surprised. And then between those hitters, you got Landon Harmon and Miguel Cime Jr., who are big upside plays on right-handed pitchers with huge arm talent. So I think the first 5 picks of this draft is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was not surprised that they took Eli Willits, and I said on our Ultimate Draft Preview show that I thought that the Nationals firing Mike Rizzo meant that Eli
Mhm.
Willits should be feeling a lot better about his
Right,
chances of going number 1 overall.
right.
I
You
and
said
I
that, and we also decreased our odds for Hernandez and increased our odds for Eli Willits in the wake of that news. So
well,
anyone who was
I think
surprised did not pay attention to what we were saying, at least.
yeah, I think that's why the Nationals fired Mike Rizzo before the draft. He got fired for other reasons, but the reason you do it before the draft is because the group that's there right now wanted to draft Eli Willits. They knew that's who they wanted. But as long as Mike Rizzo is the GM, it's his call on who they're going to take. I mean, unless ownership wants to overrule the GM, whose background is in scouting for
Right.
many years. But at that point, like, okay, if you're going to do that, then the writing's already on the wall. It's time to move on. So as soon as they fired Rizzo, I think they knew they were going to take Willits. They might have said to agents and other people, oh, we're still sorting through 5 guys, 8 guys, whatever. Um, but they knew, I think they knew exactly who they wanted to take, and they were just saying that to create leverage to get Eli Willits at the lowest possible bonus they could get him at, not because they're cheap, but because they could then reallocate their bonus pool savings toward other
Mhm.
players later in the draft, which is fine. That's just them doing their job. So I'm not surprised, because if you prioritize youth, if you prioritize bat to ball skills, playing in the middle of the field,
Mhm.
you're going to prefer Eli Willits to Ethan Holiday.
Yep.
There's no premium college hitters available that
Yep.
if you had 29 other teams, ask them, okay, you have the number one overall pick, who are you going to take? Or who's the best player on your board, at least. I don't think any of them would have a college hitter number one. Maybe somebody would, but probably not.
Mhm.
And this group is not taking Seth Hernandez 1-1. And especially now that you have a new GM in place, hey, he's just starting. He's not going to be afraid to take a longer term play like an
Mhm.
Eli Willits as a high school shortstop compared to a college arm like a Kate Anderson or Liam Doyle, Tyler Bremner, who's going to be faster to the major leagues. So, um, yeah, nothing about them taking Eli Willits is all that surprising. I'm not saying he's the guy I would have necessarily taken, but like you said, he's number 3 on our board. It's not like
Right.
they went and took somebody who's number 14 and
And I
way
think
off the
it's
board here.
I think it's worth reinforcing too that this year we have said for so long now that this class is very muddled at the top. There's
Yes.
no clear separation. There's no obvious player. Like
It's
you
not the
can
best
make
year to
you
have the number 1 overall pick.
yeah, you can make very defensible cases for a number of players here, and it just worth reminding people that like if seeing a player ranked 8 versus 1, it doesn't indicate as much of a gap in talent this year as maybe as it would in another class. And I think it just seems like it's very easy to get locked in on those numbers as we get closer and closer to the draft and just have a lot more confidence in the separation of those players than I do, who's making the list, and the teams themselves do, who talk to me all the time about how close everyone is. Like the draft is supposed to be an exercise in humility. And I think a lot of times people can get overly confident in just like the numbers attached to players before the draft. But we should know based on how every draft before this has panned out like the hit rate of these guys going in the order they're picked is not good. So we should just keep an open mind in terms of like the our ability to separate talent and our ability to accurately project talent in baseball's draft is very difficult. So anyway, Eli Willis, perfectly defensible 1-1 choice for me. Makes a lot of sense with the direction they seemingly are headed on that side.
What'd you think of their draft as a whole?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, first 5 picks, I think Petrie seemed like perfectly solid value at 49. Petrie is not my cup of tea as just a profile in general, because I question the athleticism a bit. But at 49, I think that makes sense on value for us. Both Landon Harmon and Miguel Sime Jr. I think were good values at 80 in 111. I imagine they're going to be overpay guys. Same with Coy James at 142. We ranked all those guys at better spots than where they were picked. The Nationals have already signed their seniors in the 6 to 10 round range for I think 50,000, 10,000, and then $5,000 respectively were the bonuses for that group. So they're creating a lot of savings. Imagine Eli Willis is going to be underslot at 1 to help pay for the Harmon, Sime, Coy James trio. I like the class for them.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, for having the number 1 overall pick and all the bonus pool advantages that come with it,
Uh-huh.
we should like your draft, right? So you
Yep.
sort of have to grade a little bit on a curve. I don't think they came in with like some huge haul by any means. I like Landon Harmon. I
Hmm.
like Coy James. Longtime fan of Coy James since he was an underclassman. C-May, big fastball, a lot of effort to the operation, control
Hmm.
questions, secondary question. starter, reliever, some, similar to like a Harleen Susanna, who we've talked about the upside and all the risk with him too. So
Yeah.
if you like Harleen Susanna and you're a Nationals fan, you're gonna like Miguel Sime. And
I mean,
uh,
it's a different body, it's a different sort of effort in the delivery, but like in terms of present stuff, it's not all that different than Travis Sakura, like really hard throwing pitcher who needs some more development with the secondaries. I think it is
I think
more
I think
relieverish than Sakura, but
I think Sakura's secondaries are more. I think Sakura had better secondary and better pitchability than
I
Sime.
agree with the pitchability. I do think, like, I was kind of impressed with Sime's curveball when I saw it this spring. It was better than I expected it to be. So I guess I'll be curious how that pitch develops moving forward. Do have real questions about a third pitch with him. And I
Hmm,
like the body and just how he moves on the mound. Sakura, I like the body and how he moves on the mound more
gotcha.
than Sime right now. But
I agree with that. Yeah. All right. How about the Angels at number two, taking Tyler Bremner? Was that
hmm
a surprise? Is that a reach for you? What did you think of them taking Bremner?
well,
We knew they were going to go
again,
college guy, so I don't think
yeah.
that was a surprise. But
Again, I mean, we heard I laid it out as I thought Kate Anderson and Liam Doyle were the favorites. I expected Liam Doyle to be the favorite to be picked here, but we had said over and over again, we're hearing a lot of college arms. People are talking about a lot of underslot possibilities. We specifically mentioned Tyler Bremner as a possibility here for the Angels on our pre-draft show. Peter brought it up. We'd heard the Angels tied to them a lot on our final mock. We had Tyler Bremner as another name we were hearing. So while it was a little surprising because I would have expected Anderson to be off the board just before him in general, when you combine the fact that like the Angels are always hunting underslot deals, and also the Angels were really heavily scouting Bremner down the stretch, I think it makes a lot of sense for them. My kind of big thing recently has been I think Bremner is not all that different from the top college arms in the class. This is maybe the player I was thinking of when I talked about like the specific ranking jump from 11 on our final board to 4 where we have Kate Anderson. I think you could shuffle these guys pretty in pretty different orders in terms of our top 5 pitchers in the class, and you would get people who defended those orders. Tyler Bremner had a really strong season. He has stuff that fits in this range. He's got a high probability starter profile. I like the slider better than probably a lot of people. It did not play quite as good as it has in the past this spring. I have some confidence that it can be better moving forward, but he's got an out pitch in his changeup. I mean, he consistently throws hard and he's got a great strikeout to walk rate track record in college. So I think it makes as much sense as any of the other college arms here, to be honest.
would you have taken him number two?
I would have taken one of the high school players on our board, but if I was
Well, if
down to
you,
the
yeah, if
if
Artie Moreno says, "Sorry, Carlos,
we're taking
we're
a
not
college
doing that,"
arm,
yeah,
if I'm taking a college arm, I'm
or
probably
a college
taking
player, yeah.
yeah, if it's a college player for me, I'm probably taking Jamie Arnold, Bremner, or Iva Arquette. So those are the
Yeah,
names I
so
would
I
want.
think that's probably where the surprises for people were, okay, if you're saying other people, these other players are ahead of Tyler Bremner, if I'm an Angels fan, what are we doing taking Tyler Bremner number 2 when these better options are available? Or is that
I mean, better options is what's doing a lot of work there. Like if you're really confident that there are better options, you should take the better options. But I'm saying I'm not super confident that the difference is all that meaningful. And when you pair that with what I assume is going to be the bonus difference there, you might be looking at a better class with Tyler Bremner, who you view as a comparable talent compared to what you would have got with a Kate Anderson or another option, and then whoever else you could sign there. That's always the calculus with these things. Is it is about this pick, yes. And I will say very clearly, like if you think you have someone who's the best player on the board and no one is comparable, you should just take that player and then figure out your other names later. But if you've got a group of names that your room is split about or you view as basically the same tier, I think it makes perfect sense to me to go the kind of value route and then see what kind of deals you can find later. And the Angels did take some exciting names later on that I imagine are going to be taking some of that bonus money that the team is saving.
that is the part where people, including us, say, "Oh, just take the best player available." Well, what
Mhm.
if, yeah, what if in the room you can't agree on who the
It's
best player is
so
available,
yeah,
and you
it's
just have a
so easy
tier
to
of
say
players who
just
are in the same?
Right.
group of value.
This is what I mean when I say the draft is an exercise in humility. Like, it's very easy to say you should take the best player available, but even us, like on this podcast, if we added on Peter or JJ and Jeff, like we would all disagree about who the best player is at any pick on the board. And so now take that number of people and multiply it by 4 or 5. And you're not always gonna. It's not always as simple and as black and white. It's just like here's the very clearly the best player. Um, so I think Tyler Bremner fits perfectly on talent. Again, it was really cool to see him picked with what he went through this year with his mom. So I'm excited about the pick. I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level. I don't really love that the Angels seem to always take these hard throwing reliever types in the second and third round. Like I like Chase Shores to a certain extent. I would have liked probably someone else better in the second round for them. I am a fan of Johnny Slowinski in the third round. I really like them getting Talon Haley in the 12th round. So those two high school left-handed pitchers are exciting upside plays that I'm a fan of. CJ Gray is a really exciting upside arm. Um, I would maybe be a little more excited about these names if I've like had seen a few more pitchers pan out with the Angels system. So I am a little concerned about that, but it is another really pitcher heavy class for them. I believe 7 of their first 8 picks were pitchers with Louisville third baseman Jake Monroe kind of thrown in the 4th round. I do like the Isaiah Jackson pick in the 8th round. I would have liked him maybe even a round or 2 in front of that spot. So he's maybe a hitter I'm looking at that I'm kind of excited about. But what are your thoughts on this class as a whole beyond Bremner?
Yeah, I don't think you want to go into your number 2 overall pick saying, okay, we need to build out the depth of our farm system. But if you think Bremner is in the same group as Anderson and Doyle and Arnold and Witherspoon, I mean Witherspoon went later, but um, then okay, it does make sense where I can see the Angels saying, hey, our farm system is bad, right? We need a lot more depth here. If we think if we think Bremner is just as good as these other guys, and we can get him at a significant discount, and we can build up the rest of our draft class, fine. I mean, and if you think they did it, then great. Um,
I would have liked to
it's
see some more hitters probably.
yeah, I do think he went the 13th round, so I don't know if they're gonna sign him, but Robert X Mitchell, who's a lefty from Texas, I think he's really sneaky.
Hmm.
Like what 6'3", 6'4", really skinny lefty. Like velocity is slowly creeping up. Now it's been up to 94. He can spin a good curveball. There's a lot of traits
Hmm.
to like there. Maybe he just stays skinny and it doesn't ever all come together. But that's the kind of guy I would like to bet on there.
Yeah.
But TBD, you
He'll
probably
be
know
an
more than I
interesting
would
one.
if he
He
signs.
wasn't he didn't pitch much this spring because he was dealing with some shoulder fatigue. He's also committed to
Right.
Texas, which if you're a pitcher, I think Texas is one of the better spots for you just in terms of player development at this stage. So I imagine he's pretty pricey. I would guess he's maybe like a fallback option for the Angels if something happens inside their top 10 picks. Like with Trey Gregory Alford getting a huge bonus last year after Ryan Prager didn't sign. That's just kind of my hunch. If they do think he's just signing, and that's like plan A for them, that's even more appealing because I think you are right to point that one out. That's a sneaky talent down there in the 13th round.
So were the Mariners just thrilled to have Kate Anderson there at number 3 with
Feels
him
like
and
it,
yeah. He could have easily gone no like nobody would have been surprised if he went number 1 and obviously
or
with the
two.
Angels picking ahead of him, you got to be thinking, "Oh, well,
Yep.
he's good chance he could be going there." But then they get him at 3. That's got to be a pretty
Yeah,
good feeling.
yeah. I think it has to be. Cade Anderson at number 3. Everyone in the industry had just more and more confidence that this was the guy at the top of the college pitching demographic. I mean, he really performed at a high level. He's got a solid mix of stuff and command and physical projection remaining if you want to dream. He can spin 2 really impressive breaking balls. I think it's more mid rotation upside than front of the rotation upside with Anderson, but I also think it's a pretty pretty quick moving college player that I would imagine is going to help them out at the major league level in short order. Um, and then after that, you get Luke Stevenson at 35 overall. That was a player that easily could have gone in the 20s. Nick Becker in the second is a fun one. And then it's mostly really college heavy for the Mariners from there on out. But I think this is a solid class as well. I like Griffin Hughes in the third round. I think Corbin Dickerson, excuse me, at Indiana. I was really curious to see where he was going to go. I think the fifth round is an appropriate range for him. If someone took him like top 3 rounds, I maybe would have viewed the pick a little bit more skeptically. But in the fifth round, I think it's really solid value.
Why were you curious to see where he was going to go? What's it about him that?
Just for Dickerson, who was always a tricky one for me to pin down. I mean, center field at Indiana had a really great year. He had some huge exit velocities, but part of me was always a little suspicious of those exit velocities and just the general offensive improvement that he showed this year. I mean, he was a pretty highly regarded player dating back to his high school days. And I just think there's some more questions with how he does it offensively than maybe the scouting line will indicate. But then given his performance this year, 19 home runs, a plus runner, playing center field, just solid line across the board. Like if someone wanted to take him top 3 rounds, it wouldn't have shocked me. And I would have just been a little more hesitant about what he's actually going to be as a hitter and what kind of power he's going to bring with wood, I guess, at the next level. But fifth round, like it there.
Do you think Luke Stevenson and I guess Nick Becker too, for that matter, are they going to hit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think Luke Stevenson does so much else that he doesn't really have to hit at a massive clip to still be really valuable. I think he's going to be a really good defensive catcher. He's going to have power. He's going to have on base skills. He can be a below average. He could even be a well below average hitter and still provide value. And I do think that you probably have a lot more confidence in that profile when it's your second pick versus your first, right? Just feels like it takes some of the pressure off your draft class. I think Nick Becker is a solid player in the second round. Do you have concerns about him hitting? I mean, I think he's a good athlete, good chance to stick at shortstop. If he slides somewhere else, wouldn't shock me. He runs well. The swing, some people seem to like the swing a lot more than I do. I think it's solid. I wouldn't expect like an impactful hitter here, but I think he could be a well-rounded player.
Yeah, I mean, some scouts I know like really don't think he's going to hit.
Mm.
Probably would lean toward that camp. Maybe he got better since the last time I saw him. But I really like the Kate Anderson pick where they got him. The rest of the draft class to be determined, but I think getting Kate Anderson, who's I mean, is he going to be pitching in the big leagues for them next year? Maybe.
If they wanted to push him that quickly, I don't know why he would be any less equipped to do it than some of the other arms we've seen move fast. Like I think he should be in that sort of like Rhett Lauder, Chase Dollander, Chase Burns sort of profile that, I mean, what do you need him to improve on? I don't really think much. If he gets acclimated and he shows he's still missing bats in Double A, you need a pitcher in your rotation. I say move him as quickly as you can.
Mm-hmm.
The one other one I'll note here is the 14th rounder, Luke Heyman. This is a player I thought had a chance to go in the top 5 rounds. He is a draft eligible sophomore, or excuse me, he was in 2024, had a down year, had a strong year. So taking him in the 14th round, typically these college guys, top 15 rounds, I expect they're going to sign. If they get him signed in the 14th round, I think that's a pretty good value here as well. I mean, he's not Luke Stevenson, but I think there are some real tools here.
That's the Florida catcher.
Yeah, sorry, Florida catcher. Yep.
Yeah.
We can move on to Rockies.
Yeah, they also are probably pretty happy too, because I imagine good chance if they had the first overall pick, Ethan Holiday is still a Colorado Rocky.
Right. Yeah, it is funny how just how just obvious it was that the Rockies wanted Holiday and preferred to get Holiday, and here they are. They have Ethan Holiday, 4th overall, top player on our board. Really exciting hit power combination, tons of offensive upside, chance for 30 plus home runs. I mean, for you, what do you think the peak home run projection is for Holiday in his like prime years? Do you think he's like a 40 plus home run type? Like how confident are you that he's going to get to that power at the major league level?
I mean, he has the bat speed and the physical upside and the present power to where you could see 25, 30 plus home runs, draw a lot of walks. But offensively, the question mark is how much contact is he going to make? He's not like a raw hitter. It's just it comes with swing and miss, and he didn't dominate on the showcase circuit the way you would have loved to have seen from the top player in the high school class. Um, James Wood swung and missed quite a bit too in high school. He's doing all right right
Another
now.
another player who did not perform super well in the showcase circuit and had some swing and miss tendencies is Bobby Wood Jr. So, I mean, I'm not comparing Ethan Holiday to Bobby Wood Jr., but I think there is something to the top player in a high school class. Like we've seen a lot of these guys not have the summers they were expected to have, either because our expectations for them every time we see them are just higher than every other player, and it's hard to just match those expectations, or because they get pitched around literally every game they go to in high school. Like all the other high school pitchers know who these guys are, and they just maybe they don't get much to hit, and so they can't perform as much. But um,
Unless you're Kevin McGonigal, then you just hit everybody. But
yeah, the way Max Clark was talking about Kevin McGonigal at the prospect pad was just awesome to see. It's like this dude never goes into a slump.
right. Then on the other hand, I think there are people more fans than anybody else who wonder, okay, is this more Drew Jones that like, another son of a all, former all-star big leaguer who's, very famous at an early age and then maybe isn't as good as people were thinking who does go with such an early pick. And Holiday doesn't have the kind of defensive tools, obviously, that
Mm.
Drew has to fall back on. Not that Drew is has ascended as a
Right.
prospect by any means right now.
Yeah, it's hard to assess my like risk of Ethan versus Drew because like at the time he was drafted, we expected him to be just a far better hitter than he's been in pro ball. Like we thought the contact skills were really good. Thought there was like a baseline of bat speed and physical projection, dream on the power coming, and just I mean we had him as the top player in the class that year ahead of Jackson Holiday, who went one and Drew went two. So I mean I don't have any more questions with Ethan Holiday than really any top high school hitter in the class, but all of these guys have some sort of risk. Like not all of them are going to pan out. Um, but I don't know. I mean, Ethan Hall is a very, very good player. I would be excited to have him.
Yeah, the rest of their draft seems like pretty college heavy for the
Yeah.
Rockies.
Colorado feels like they've been really college heavy the last few years. Ethan was the only high school player they selected. They had one junior college player in the 13th round, Isaiah Muniz out of Mount St. Antonio College in California. I like their second and third picks, JV Middleton and Max Ballou. In my mind, I'm just like flipping them in my head. I would have taken Ballou in the second round, no doubt about it, at 45 overall. At 74, I feel like that's a steal. I like JB Middleton, but maybe a little less than where they took him 45th. So they got him both in an order that I think is backwards to me, but it's probably irrelevant when you get them both at the end of the day. Like this is your package of players, and I think they're solid ones. I do wonder if Max Ballou wasn't hurt, if he maybe had a chance to slide inside the first. This is a player that I'm kind of shocked he got to 74 overall. Like we didn't have a
Why?
lot of college hitters in this range. I think he's a really good college hitter. He's got good bat to ball skills. He was performing early before he dealt with some injuries. He's probably a corner profile, but I think he's a good defender in a quarter. He's got a plus arm, one of the better throwing arms in the class. I just think it's a really well-rounded college profile. I don't know. It's hard to not like if you watch Max Ballou play and hit. He's a player that's hard to not like. He really seems like a grinder, a high intensity sort of player. Good feel for the barrel. We'll see if he can improve like the approach a little bit. Sometimes he's overly aggressive. Um, but yeah, I just think this is really good value in the third round for me.
Well, high intensity is a good way to describe who the Cardinals took with their first overall pick
Yeah.
or their first round pick, fifth overall. Tennessee left-hander Liam Doyle. They got Ryan Mitchell, high school shortstop, in the second round. What did you think of what the Cardinals did?
I mean, in some ways, I feel like this is the pick that's more surprising than any of the others in the top 10, if only because I really thought if one of Eli Willits or Jamie Arnold were on the board, they were going to take one of those two players. They had Jamie Arnold on the board and went with Doyle. instead. So Doyle was a guy that outside of 2 and 3, I guess 2 through 4, I didn't have any clear and obvious landing spots for him, like, like, mock preparation, and maybe that was just because every team expected him to go in front of them, and the Cardinals taking him here maybe is another indication of that he just wasn't likely to slide that much, but, I mean, one of the very best fastballs in the class here for Doyle, just an intense competitor on the mound, maybe the most dominant college pitcher in terms of just the rate of strikeouts that he had. I think he led all Division I pitchers in strikeout rate. And then Ryan Mitchell, a guy who I was hearing a lot of chatter about in the comp range. We ranked him as a top 50 prospect. So going here at 55 makes a ton of sense on talent. I think he does have some of the traits the Cardinals seem to covet with their hitters, controls the strike zone, makes a lot of contact. It sounds like his batted ball data was one of the more impressive numbers for high school hitters last summer, just like the impact he was able to generate, which I think is pretty exciting considering he's still got a ton of weight to add to his frame.
It's pretty lean body, yeah.
Yeah, and also I kind of like the fact that they drafted him as an outfielder. He was a shortstop in high school, and I had some real questions about just the throwing that he showed from the position. It sounded like there were times where scouts saw him where it was just downright bad. Like Dean Curley gets all the attention for throwing issues because you can just see all the games and all the highlights, but Ryan Mitchell had some real throwing issues at times. And in my head, I was still thinking of him as an infielder. And then to see the Cardinals just draft him as an outfielder, he's a good runner, good athlete, can move around. I assume they're going to put him out in center and see how that looks. But I like the hit power with him and just the general foundation of athleticism that he has.
I would like to see Mitchell get more opportunity at shortstop.
Yeah.
Think he loses value if you shove him out to the outfield,
Hmm.
but yeah, look, Doyle, Mitchell, both guys who seemed like they were fine for where they drafted them. I like both of them. I don't think they were either above or below where they
Hmm.
fit on talent, but just right right on the mark. Kind of boring analysis, I guess, but it's
I think the same is also true of Tanner
yeah.
Franklin at 72 in the comp round, and then Jack Gurovich in the third round. Like both those guys went where our board says they probably should go. Jalen Flores in the 11th is kind of interesting. He's a guy who's been on the BA 500 for a few years now. He was draft eligible sophomore in 2024. His stock has tumbled. I just frankly don't think he's a very advanced hitter, but he does have some power. He's got a great body. He's got good actions defensively. So if the Cardinals can help him unlock anything more with just like the pure hit tool, there are at least some tools to like there. And 11th round seems infinitely defensible for a player of his talent to me.
Pirates picking six. They gave they got your guy, Carlos Seth Hernandez.
They got my guy.
I know you love that pick.
I do love it. I mean, best upside in the class at 6th overall. Come on now. The Pirates are basically making a name for themselves as upside hunters. Like they're not afraid to take big swings in the draft. It has paid off really nicely with Connor Griffin. I mean, every team in the industry would have liked Paul Skeens given the upside and safety that he provided in his draft class. But there are just a lot of teams who would not have touched guys like Seth Hernandez, guys like Connor Griffin with their first pick in this sort of range because of some of the risks associated with them. But I think Seth Hernandez is more talented than any pitcher in this class. He goes as the fourth overall pitcher behind some college arms that I just frankly think currently right now have worse stuff than him. The Pirates have done a really nice job with pitching development in general in recent years. They added another pitcher in Angel Cervantes, who I know we both like. Cervantes is just like
Mhm.
screams starter. He's really young. He has a deep pitch mix. I mean, they have two of the better changeups in the class overall with Seth Hernandez and Cervantes, both of whom are plus or better. We've got plus control, I believe, on both these. We have a 55 control on Seth and plus control on Cervantes. So, like, pitch ability, righties with real stuff to lead it off. I find myself really liking drafts like this. I think I liked Miami's when they did Thomas White. Did they do
And
Thomas
Noble
White
Meyer.
and Noble Meyer? Yeah, same
Yeah.
draft class. So I like that one as well, just because again, like a lot of teams move away from these sort of risk profiles. Um, man, I like when teams are going to chase upside and go for impact players, and that's what certainly Seth is. And I really like Angel on talent in the second round at 50th overall.
Yeah, I like Seth Hernandez. I like Angel Cervantes. Both guys with a lot of starter traits. Like
Hmm.
we talked about, like Sime earlier, a lot of reliever risk with him, and he went a little bit later in the draft, although he's going to get paid a ton of money. But um, both guys who look like true starting pitcher profiles, throw a
Hmm.
lot of strikes, manipulate their secondary stuff. Cervantes is still really young for the class, and there's another gear still to come on his stuff. Gustavo Melendez, a little shortstop from Puerto Rico, I think is interesting. Adonis Guzman, catcher from Arizona in the fifth round, I think is you're not drafting him for this reason, and it probably would not be a good outcome if well, it'd be a good outcome if it happened, but I legit wonder if he's like the next Kenley Jansen, where it's not why you're drafting him there, but pitching is a legitimate fallback
Or like a
option.
Bethencourt
Yeah,
situation.
his arm is bonkers, but um,
Yeah,
TBD
I
how
mean,
much
he had a
he'll
good
hit.
offensive season. I still have real questions about the hit, as seemingly you do, but it's an 80 grade arm. I maybe wish that they drafted some hitters I was more excited about after the top two pitchers in the class. Like Murph Gray and Easton Carmichael are solid on talent. Um, Murph has some ingredients to hit, but I do wonder about the aggression with him. I wonder about the defensive profile with him. I think he's probably more likely to play first base than he is third. He's just not a great athlete at third. Uh, Easton Carmichael is just like one of these kind of like boring college profiles where he does everything really well, but maybe nothing great. And I don't mean boring in like a as maybe as much of a pejorative as it sounded. Like he is a well-rounded player. Um, but I maybe would be wanting a bat that I was more excited about. Like Gustavo Melendez is a profile that really scares me at this point. Like he can really pick it. He's just so small and does not have a lot of power now. And he swings like he does a lot of the times, which maybe is something that will get a little bit cleaned up. He has power that should be more of like a line drive swing, but he swings like he's swinging for the fences a lot, which maybe is a very minor critique. But I imagine Gustavo is going to be pretty far away. He's one of the younger players in the class, and just he's got uh, a lot of physicality to add, I think. But yeah, starting it off with two upside plays at the top is fun.
And then the Marlins go in, I think all college players, starting with three college bats and Ivar Arquette, Cam
Mm.
Canarella, Brandon Compton.
Yeah, I think the Marlins need bats. Clearly, this was a draft where they tried to infuse some hitting talent into their farm system. And if you think they've struggled to develop hitters, it maybe makes more sense to just go with the college profile where theoretically you have less work to do. Iva Arquette feels like kind of a no-brainer at 7 to them, just given who went in front of them. Best college hitter in the class, maybe a testament of this class. The best college hitter is going 7th overall. Typically, that's a lot earlier for that profile, but they've got a solid mix of impact here with guys like Cam Canarella that you feel good about the defensive profile and the hitting track record. I think Brandon Compton's power potential is a great fit at 46 overall. Thought he had a chance to go top 40. Max Williams and Drew Farrow, both Florida State products that I'm a little bit more skeptical of, like just the approaches with them. But they have some impact as well. They're strong. Chance to play up to middle positions for both of them, but I also think maybe some risk to slide a little bit down the defensive spectrum. I actually quite liked Chris Arroyo, their 5th round pick, first baseman out of Virginia. I maybe saw him better than some other scouts did this spring, but he does have a lot of power from the left side. He's got a swing that looks geared to get the ball in the air to the pull side. The performance at the end of the day was maybe not as loud as you would want to see for a sort of first base only profile. They drafted him as a first baseman. I think the hitting upside with him is far better than the pitching, but he maybe does have like a legitimate fallback option as a pitcher. And I actually like the Joey Vellini and Jake Clemente picks in the 6th and 7th round. Joey Vellini has like a really impressive performance, maybe more pitchability type, and then Clemente has real stuff, probably a reliever, but a lot of arm talent. And in the 7th round, I'd be pretty happy with that profile, even if it is more likely reliever. Talking through it, it's kind of interesting how many players from Florida they drafted, 4 in the top 7 rounds, and their top 200 picks for them. Looks like that was it in terms of the whole draft. But yeah,
Mm. Blue Jays at 8, taking high school shortstop JoJo Parker. Feels like a Blue Jays pick to me. I mean, a very big rise for him over the past year, and I get why. I mean, it's a very pure left-handed swing, very hitterish look, good performance last summer, playing against good competition. There's strength projection there, TBD on the position, but you're banking on the offensive game. And it seems like one of the more advanced high school hitters in the country this year.
Yeah, the hit power combination is really exciting. It's a strong athlete. I don't think he's gonna wind up at shortstop. I think you put him there and see if he just looks better than I expect him to look, or just he'll make a lot of strides with pro coaching helping him out at the position. But yeah, outside of Ethan Holiday, I think one of the more exciting hit power combinations in the high school class. Um, Jake Cook in the third round is a little rich for me. He is older. He does not have the most extensive track record, but this was a player that we had heard was kind of moving up draft boards in the lead up to the draft. I think we had a piece on Saturday lumping him in with a number of college players that had a chance to go on night one this year. He does go in that range. Third round, he's a far better runner than the stolen base numbers would suggest. He went 3 for 8 on the bases this spring, but he's a legit 70 grade runner, contact oriented bat, can play center field. Tim Piacentine, I apologize, I might be butchering his last name, was the top Canadian player in the class. Kind of fun that he goes to Toronto here. Sort of a Nate Fluelling type of profile from last year, if you guys remember him in the third round. Power over hit, third base, corner profile with a big arm. But he did show some of the better power at the combine this year, and is fun upside play as a hitter. And then I like their both their 11th and 12th round picks as well. Jared Spencer out of Texas. This was a guy who probably is a top 2 round pick if he stays healthy. Now he's got the injury, the shoulder injury that throws maybe more of a question mark into his overall profile. And then Blaine Bullard, I assume these high school players taken in the like 11 to 13 round range are signable, and the teams have taken him there to get him signed. If so, I love this pick 'cause we had him as a top 150-ish or so player, up the middle profile, plus runner, really nice, clean looking swing from both sides, maybe like it better from the left side. But this would be an absolute coup if they can get him in the 12th round. He's a Texas A&M commit, so I guess we'll see. Maybe it's like a backup, fallback option for them, but that would be a real win for the Blue Jays to get him signed in the 12th.
Okay. How about the Cincinnati Reds at 9, taking high school shortstop Steele Hall? I thought it was a little high for him, and I like
Mhm.
Steele Hall, but especially with Billy Carlson still on the board, and then Billy Carlson goes one pick
Mm.
later. Um, I think he's a great athlete. He's a true shortstop. He's an elite runner. My question: if you're going to take a guy in the top 10 overall picks, I want to have a lot of conviction on the bat and the hitting ability and the offensive upside. And I think he's a solid hitter, but I don't
Mhm.
think he's a great hitter. And maybe he goes out in pro ball next year and hits really well and answers all those questions. But um, I like Steel Hall. I just think there are other options here that were better players were available for him.
I don't disagree entirely. I do think the Reds, like, I got the sense that they liked Steel Hall better than some of those players that you maybe prefer.
Well,
I
sure,
always
yeah, they took him.
Yeah, I always thought they liked him better than Billy Carlson. Like, the Reds do like athletes quite a bit. Steel Hall is one of the better athletes in the draft. I was curious, like, because I'd heard they really wanted to go bat. They had some bats go in front of them, but Ike Irish was still available. I thought they liked Ike Irish. Um, Still Hall, I always thought it was like kind of like a backup option for them, depending on how the board went for them in front. Jamie Arnold being on the board and not being taken was interesting to me because they have been a team that's willing to take college arms in the top 10 and has done quite well with that profile. I would have liked Steel Hall more in the like 10 to 20 round range. So a lot of this
10 to
pick might
20
come,
round, you mean pick?
or 10 to 20 pick. Yeah, 10 to
Yeah.
20 pick, excuse me. I'm a little delirious at this
I'd
point
love
if you
him in the
can't
10th
if you
round,
can't
yeah.
tell. Um but I'm with you, like, I have some concerns about the hit power with Steel Hall. Like, it never has felt like the most instinctual swing to me. Um Aaron Watson, the second round, I think is solid value. I like him about the same degree. I like Landon Harmon in this class, more polished than pure stuff compared to Harmon. His slider is really advanced for his age.
Hmm.
Mason Neville is another one who kind of like Corbin Dickerson, I thought had a chance to go top 3 rounds somewhere, and I'm kind of glad to see him here in the fourth for the Reds because I think with the kind of tools and upside he has combined with just the hitting risk I associate with this profile, like tolerating that risk here in the fourth round makes a lot more sense to me.
I'm
Mason
very
Morris,
I was just say I'm very intrigued with Mason Neville.
yeah.
I like that pick. I thought he could have fit much, if he goes in the top 2 rounds, I thought he could have fit there on talent. There's power, there's a sense for the strike zone. I think there's some swing and miss risk there, but I think he can. I'm optimistic at least that he can keep it to a manageable level. So to get a player
Mm,
like that in the fourth round, I was very much a fan of that pick.
yeah. I have more concerns about just the pure hitting approach with him, some of the contact concerns. I mean, he to his credit, he did improve a lot in the contact department this spring, but I think secondaries are still a real issue for him. He can run, he's got an arm, he's got raw power. So if this is like a sign of an improving approach, and that's going to continue at the next level, good value here. Eli Pitts, another really impressive athlete. Again,
Excellent athlete.
a
Yeah,
lot of athletes with the Reds. I mean, he's not going to be as famous as Steel Hall, but he's probably close to an equivalent runner. He's a double plus runner who can really get after it. I would imagine
yeah.
he's going to be a pretty good defender in center. So
He's still raw, and I'm guessing signability played a role here in them taking him here. It's probably better for him to go to pro ball than college too, where he can play right away, and you don't have to worry about
mhm.
getting benched if you struggle or you're not helping your college team or your minor league team win games right away. They're still going to run you out there every day. He's going to need those at bats.
Yeah. Mason Morris in the third round is maybe not a super sexy pick, but I think rock solid on value where Scott's expected him to go. Great performance this spring. Solid 3 pitch mix with solid control. So yeah, that's the Reds.
What did you think of the White Sox draft?
White Sox draft. I think there's more risk here than maybe you're going to think.
Hmm.
I mean, I like Billy Carlson. You like him better than I like him. I have more concerns about the hitting ability and the power with Billy. Obviously, there's no questions about the defense. I don't know that we need to talk about that too much. People already know Billy Carlson defensively. Jaden Falsky was getting a lot of buzz down the stretch. He's got a lot of power. He was drafted as an outfielder. He's been a catcher in the past. He was probably always more likely to profile as an outfielder than a catcher. So I think that makes sense to just let him go play the outfield and hit. And then Kyle Odis, this is the range that he should have gone on talent for a lot of scouts who were not quite as bought into the performance this spring and just the tools. I think with both of the shortstops that the White Sox drafted, you are going to like them more than me. Like I like Billy Carlson, but man, I just don't know what he's going to be offensively at the next level, and I could see a real wide range of outcomes for him as a hitter.
I mean, is the same not true of Steel Hall?
Yeah, I just said the same about Steel Hall. I would have liked him a
Yeah,
little later in the 10 to 20
fair,
range.
fair enough. I think Billy Carlson might end up being the best shortstop in the draft. I think he's better
Yeah.
than Steel Hall. He's not the pure hitter that JoJo Parker is. It's not the power of Ethan Holiday, but I don't think either of those guys will stay at shortstop. Whereas Billy Carlson is a true shortstop, plus defense, 70 arm, great actions, and he's always made a lot of contact. He has good back control. He has bat speed. It's a narrow frame, so he's pretty slender still. You can hope he gets puts on a lot more strength and adds power because the bat speed is there. I don't know if the frame is ever going to hold a ton of strength and lend itself to big power, but I think you're getting a true shortstop, and I'm optimistic that he's going to hit because he has really good hand-eye coordination. He doesn't swing and miss a whole
Mhm.
lot, and there is bat speed in there. So he's not as advanced of a hitter, I would say, as Eli Willits. That's why Eli Willits, went number one overall.
Mhm.
Uh, but if Billy Carlson ends up the best shortstop of this group of guys who went in the top 10 overall picks, would not would not surprise me. And then Kyle O'Deese, yeah, I really like that pick. I think the players like him, the scouts have a hard time warming up to them, and then they get consistently undervalued because of that. He was seventh in the ACC, I believe, in OPS. He's a high contact bat. He controls the strike zone. Power is fringy, maybe below average, and I think he's a shortstop. Maybe he
Mm.
goes to second base. Probably
Yeah.
there are a lot of people I'm sure who think he's a second baseman, and I think we've seen other college shortstops with similar tools, similar skill set, um, who end up surprising people and staying at shortstop. Even if he does go to second base, I still like him, especially here in the third round.
Mhm.
But I'm more optimistic that he can stay at shortstop than most. And
Mhm.
I think you add up the sum of the parts. That's a pretty good player, especially to get him in the third round.
It's funny, the last line of our report for Lodis is he's a split camp player who is loved by model heavy teams and viewed more skeptically by those who value physical tools. And here the White Sox are drafting him, which is maybe one of the least model heavy teams
Hmm.
in the industry. But also Billy Carlson here going 10th with Seth Hernandez, first ever high school duo to be drafted inside the top 10 picks of the same year. So there's some more draft history for this year.
Today, how many did I know Tennessee had? Did they have three first rounders
I'll
this
pull that up
year,
right now. They definitely
or
had
at
at
least in
least
the
3.
top?
They had, Andrew Fisher, Gavin Keelan, and then they had, Liam Doyle. They had
Yeah.
Doyle
So
was
yeah.
5, Keelan 13, Fisher 20, and then Marcus Phillips just barely missed at 33.
Okay. Well, yeah. So University of Tennessee, and then if you count Brady Ebel, what next is Corona High School,
Mhm.
leading the way at the top of the
Yeah.
draft.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cover
Uh,
looks good.
yeah. It's the high school transfer portal is buzzing
It
as
absolutely is, yep.
um, what about the A's at 11 getting
I love this
Jamie
class.
Arnold? I mean, Jamie Arnold coming into the year, we're talking about him. Hey, maybe the Nationals take him
Right,
at first overall, and
right.
it's not like he had like a Josh Hartle type year where everything fell apart and
No.
sunk
Kinda the
his
only thing
stock
is,
like
like,
that.
the fastball just didn't get quite as much swing and miss. Other than that, it was pretty similar. He wasn't quite as dominant as a year ago, but, it's back-to-back years with a sub-3 ERA in the ACC. He's has great deception from that low slot, fastball that just has a ton of movement, sliders and no doubt plus pitch, plays against batters of both sides, solid control, track record. He's got a changeup that could be a real beast of a weapon once he gets more feel for it. He started throwing that pitch more frequently this spring. The data on it is just insane. He was telling us at the combine that it's like it moves so much it's difficult for him to control. So really curious where that's gonna wind up for him in terms of like usability at 11. I mean, I expected Tyler Bremner maybe had a chance to go at 11, and I was going to talk about how much I like that value at 11. I like it just as much here for Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, we
I
knew somebody was going to fall out of the top
mhm,
10 and get to the A's,
yep,
and it ended up being Jamie Arnold.
right. I mean, the A's have done a really nice job with their first round picks in recent years. They have been pretty college heavy in recent years. Jacob Wilson, Nick Kurtz, both of them have looked great. Arnold, like we said with Anderson, like I imagine with Bremner, I don't know, we touched on it. Like I think he can move really quickly. There's a young core of hitters here in this A's lineup that needs some reinforcements on the pitching side. So I just think on talent and for like a team need, Jamie Arnold is a great fit here. I've like talked myself into being like a Devin Taylor believer. So getting him in the second round at 48, I think is a good value as well. Thought he had a chance to maybe go in the first round because the bat is so advanced and the performance has been so consistent. But if you're worried that, oh, it's a left field profile, I feel like getting that in the second round with your second pick is maybe more tolerable. In the fourth round, they don't have a third round pick. Fourth round, they take Gavin Turley. Some similar questions for me with Turley as like a Mason Neville. I think there are real hit questions here, but I do like Zane Taylor in the fifth as one of like the top priority seniors in the class. Pitcher with great control, solid fastball, some developing secondaries. Um, Yeah, but this class for me is all Arnold and Taylor as the first two picks that I really like.
Okay. What about Texas picking 12 behind them? What did you think of what they did?
Let me pull up Texas here. This was Gavin Feen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gavin Feen, 12th overall. Uh,
Number 31 in our rankings.
yeah, I don't know. I like Gavin Feen. Probably some other hitters I would have taken over him in this range, especially because I drafted as a shortstop. I think probably unlikely to play shortstop moving forward. I think more third base, more corner outfield. I mean, he is a good hitter. He does have power. I would have liked him more in sort of the 20s. I think just given maybe some of the risks I have with the profile. The swing being a little bit odd is not what holds me back here because it is an unusual looking swing, but it has always worked fine for him, so that doesn't bother me too much. I think it's mostly just the profile questions I would have here. There were some other shortstops like Daniel Pierce, Casey Cunningham, who are still on the board. Just like
Profile as in where he ends
as
up
in like
defensively.
likely corner profile in my mind.
Corner as
Um,
in third base, though, or corner like he might go to left field or first base type corner? Because third base to me is still very valuable.
I'd say both.
Yeah.
Like I just think you had some shortstops who had more chances to stick at shortstop with similar offensive upside, at least similar enough for me. Um, I mean, if he is like a JoJo Parker esque hit power combination, they're going to be happy with that, even if he winds up at third. Because I had the same like defensive questions about JoJo Parker. Like I really like that pick, despite saying I don't think he's a shortstop. So maybe there's a disconnect here in the profile as I'm talking through it. But for whatever reason, maybe a little just more skeptical of this one. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know about this one. He, as an underclassman, did not stand out to me. And then you look at what he did last summer, and it's like, okay, like if you're just looking at stats, I mean, he performed as well as anybody
Hmm.
during the summer. And but then what happened this spring? I mean, did he go out and crush everybody this spring?
No, roll up and down
So
spring for him.
yeah, and then I look at the swing. Okay, like I had questions about how Caleb Bonnemer did it in high school too. Kind of an unusual looking swing. You could see kind of the lower hanging fruit to fix the swing of like you got to be able to just adjust Caleb Bonnemer's the way he uses his lower half to get a little bit more rhythm and fluidity
Hmm.
into what was kind of a stiff swing at the time. With Fiend, yeah, kind of scratching my head, wondering how he did it. He did make significant strides, I think, from where he was as an underclassman, and is a
Hmm.
significantly better prospect. But I would say, look, JoJo Parker was kind of the same way in the jump that he made over the past year. But with JoJo Parker, I'm looking at the swing, the approach, and saying, yes, like this all looks right. Like and the performance with Parker too. I can see why people are really excited about it, and I'm on board with Fiend. Again, good player, but it's just a question of like you said, number 12 overall. And I'm sure they're
Right.
getting him under slot and they're going to balance out the rest of their draft class with some better players who they were targeting later on. But yeah, I had the same questions about it more for me. Like, is this going to work higher up? And if it does, you know, great. I'm
Right.
just light here. But yeah,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
probably are both
Caleb
Casey Cunningham
Bonnemer.
fans.
I think Caleb Bonnemer and Kevin Feen are like interesting to compare and contrast because, like, maybe you could say that you think Gavin Feen is a tick better hitter. At the same time, I think their power maybe similar, but I really thought Bonnemer was a much better athlete with better secondary tools
Mm.
across the board. And then he goes in the second round, 43rd overall for the White Sox compared to Feen going here 12th overall. Yeah, just a little stiffer than maybe I would have liked. AJ Russell in the second, Josh Owens in the third. I like those picks on value. Russell has a freaky fastball. And I think with some of the questions just in terms of health and lack of innings, like getting him in the second compared to like a top 40 comp or late first round pick, is solid value there. Josh Owens is a guy who I really wondered if was going to go top 50, given the amount of teams that were really in on him as a projection name. Being selected as a two-way player, thoughts on that? I was just in my mind, he's an outfielder, he's a hitter. I mean, I know he was a pitcher in high school. He's been up to 94 miles per hour. I'll be really curious, like what the actual two-way experiment is going to be with Josh Owens. And you know me, Ben, I'm trying to get these guys to focus on one side as soon as possible. So I hope he just gets a lot of reps offensively because I think he's a player who needs those reps. And I'm way more excited about his upside as a hitter than I am as a pitcher. But maybe he'll surprise me here.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of times when these teams are taking guys as a two-way player, they're just telling them they're a two-way player. Then they sign the contract, and then all of a sudden, once they have nowhere else to go, now you're only doing one thing, pal. That's seems to be the trend. So,
Well, that would be lame if so, but yeah. Any other names you want to mention here before we move on?
no, the Giants, Gavin Keelan picking 13th overall. Would you think of that? Seems like a fair pick there.
Yeah,
Nothing
I
like
think
jumps
I
out as
think
like over or under where we expected.
no, I think good value makes sense. Down the stretch, it definitely felt like Keelan was kind of sliding into this. Like, I mean, I guess with the Ike Irish still on the board, we'll talk about him a little bit later. But I wouldn't have expected Ike Irish to go as late as he did. He obviously went to a team that has a ton of bonus pool money at 19, but I think this is a perfectly fair spot. I think we were consistently mocking Keelan around 15 or so. I had heard that the Giants really wanted a hitter. I heard them more associated with high school profiles than college profiles, but I think people, as they really dug into the weeds with Gavin, really like the hitting traits here. And even if he's going to be a second baseman, which I think he probably is, drafted as a shortstop, but I would still be happy with this profile if he moves to second base, which is where I assume he's going to go.
Yeah, yeah, it seems like a solid pick there. Anything else in their draft that really moved the needle for you?
Yeah, Reed Worley in the ninth round. Again, until we hear otherwise, anyone who's drafted inside the top 10 rounds before signing day, we should assume they're going to sign. The sign rate for these players is like 97%. Plus,
That's
the only
because they're negotiating deals before the draft, right?
yes, and also it really screws the teams up if they don't sign these players because they lose the bonus pool money associated with them. And so the teams want to make sure that they're going to be able to sign them. So typically, this does not always happen. So I can't say it's like a blanket statement. Typically, and especially with taking a guy like Reed Worley in the ninth round, I would be stunned if they had blindly taken him in the ninth without calling and saying, "Hey, we have X. Will you sign for X?" And typically,
Right.
that's how it happens. Sometimes, especially in the first few rounds, teams will take a player blind and just assume they have their signability down and draft a player without that call and work it out and make sure they try and get the money. That is rare. Um,
And they do it that in the early rounds because if they don't sign them, they get a pick the next year. Whereas if you do it in the
right.
eighth rounds, you
Any
don't.
top 3 round pick comes with some compensation. So if you don't get a player signed, you'll get a pick either one spot after, or I think if it's in the third round, it's just like at the end of the third round next year, you'll get pick compensation a year later. And so again, assume these guys are going to sign unless something crazy comes up with like medical or something weird. Um, but Reed Worley, we had as a top 150-ish prospect, one of the better breaking balls in the class. We have the sliders that feature 70 pitch, low 80s, tons of spin, tons of sweeping depth, easy swing and miss pitch. He's a guy who still has some strength to add to his frame. I think more velocity is going to come on that fastball, but that's a like kind of an upside pitch ability, not a pitch ability, but an upside pitcher play. And then Cam Maldonado, seventh rounder out of Northeastern. I found myself liking Cam more and more as we kind of dove more into the profile, as we finalized the reports. I think he's a really impressive athlete. He's always stolen a lot of bases, he's a plus runner, solid chance to play center field and stick there, be a good defender there. I think maybe more solidish offensive upside potential. Like the swing is a little bit stiff at times. He can hit the ball hard. And so because I have confidence that he's going to be a center fielder, I really like this pick in the seventh round.
All right. Tell me about the Rays draft at 14. Did you I have mixed feelings on them, so I'm curious to hear what you thought about what they did.
Okay, let me pull up Rays here. Sorry, as I go down, I'm
Go
just kind
and
of pulling them up on our board so I can look at the full. And by the way, if you guys are listening and you don't know about our draft database, you can literally pull up every team's draft and scan through them and click through our scouting notes on all of them, so you can be an expert um, on them, like anyone else is. I think the Rays took a lot of profiles that I like in the top 5 rounds. A lot of their players are very well rounded, solid athletes. They don't stand out as having like one huge tool that's like a carrying tool, but like Daniel Pierce, I do have some concerns with Daniel Pierce offensively. I would say I would bucket those concerns similar to how I have them bucketed for both Steele Hall and Billy Carlson. Probably no more optimism or skepticism. I think skepticism would be a new
I
word.
like skepticism though. That should be a
Yeah.
word.
So like I think he is a tremendous defender at shortstop. If anything, I think Daniel Pierce's defensive ability gets undersold a bit. He has a really strong arm, has always shown excellent actions. I don't think he's the most natural hitter in the world. And so I wonder how much offensive upside he's going to just be able to tap into. Brendan Summerhill, I think at 42 is great value. I would have taken him in the 20s, just given what I feel about his just pure hitting ability. I think at a certain
Hmm.
point, he was one of the better college hitters available. I know that he didn't hit a bunch of home runs this spring. It doesn't bother me too much. I think you can pack more strength onto him. I don't think he is like pulling the ball in the air with a ton of consistency. Maybe you can help him do that a little bit more if you think he needs to hit for more power. It feels like a Braden Taylor ish sort of profile to me, as like kind of this maybe not quite as advanced of an approach offensively as Braden Taylor had at the time, but like this tweenerish outfielder, whereas Taylor was like a tweenerish infielder with no carrying tools. But I think he's a good runner. I think he's a solid approach. I think there maybe some more power to dream on.
He
I would
broke his hand
expect.
this year too,
Right,
which
right.
kind of also is on him, I guess, on for that one. But
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
he did not break it because he got hit in the hand.
yeah,
But I think too, like he's probably going to get a chance to play center field. And I have talked to some scouts who've said like when they've seen him in center, it was better than they expected it to be. So if he wound up playing more center field than people think, that wouldn't shock me either, and that would go a long way towards answering some of this like tweener profile concerns. Cooper Fleming in the second round is maybe a little steep for me, but I do really like his all around game as well. I think he's a very instinctive player. He's shown an impressive ability to hit at solid events with solid pitching. I think he's a good defender. Like I think he does a lot of things for you well. He's not the fastest runner in the world, but I just think he does things on both sides of the ball. Tate Gray in the third round, he's got tons and tons of power. A huge upside as a power hitter, extremely young for the class, chance to stick behind the plate and catch. And then Dean Moss, I'm not the biggest Dean Moss fan in the world, but when he's your fourth overall pick at 67,
right.
I like it. I think again, it's kind of like the high school version of Summerhill for me, where he's
Hmm.
a bit of a tweener outfield profile. I like his pure hitting ability. I like his approach. I think he's going to get on base a lot. I wish he ran a little bit better or hit for a little bit more power now. Um, but I think he just does a lot of things well. So yeah, I find myself actually kind of liking a lot of these profiles here at the top. And you said you had some thoughts on the Rays. So what are yours?
I did not like their first pick,
Hmm.
Daniel Pierce, and they took him right in line with where we have him ranked, and right in line with where I'm sure I think a lot of scouts and a lot of teams had him on their
Well, we had him
boards.
24, so a little bit higher, but
Okay, a little bit higher, but like first round pick, right?
yeah,
Like no, I don't think anybody's surprised he went in the first round. Like that's where we
no, not
expected
at
him to be a
all.
first
Yeah.
round. I would not have taken him uh, in the first round. I maybe I'm just missing the boat. Maybe he got a lot better this spring. I know a lot of people liked him. I just have a lot less confidence here in the bat for a high school player, especially given who else they could have taken. Like if you want a high school shortstop, very different profile, but like Case Cunningham is there. But I think the Rays very much value
Mhm.
defense. I think Cunningham's defense is a little bit underrated, but um, but yeah, I just don't have a ton of confidence in the hitting ability. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm missing something, or
Well, he
my
did
lists
take a
are way
big
dated.
I mean, he did take a big step forward offensively in the spring because I talked to a lot of scouts as well last summer who thought great defender, really had questions about the offense, and then had a good offseason, and then had a ton of people come in to see him in the spring where he just went off offensively. So if he did take a step, you would have been like on the tail end before you got to like see him take that step forward. But I also still have some similar questions to you about just the overall offensive profile there.
After that, yeah, I agree. It's pretty interesting. Brendan Summerhill at 42 feels like a guy who should have gone much higher. Like
Hmm.
I'd rather have Brendan Summerhill than Pierce. It's very low swing and miss. There's strength in there. If you can get him to turn on balls in the air more consistently instead of just being content sending the ball the other way, I think you get him to unlock more power there. Dean Moss in the supplemental second round, 67, very interesting guy. I thought he was probably going to go to LSU. LSU's
Hmm.
class got wrecked. Oh my, they lost like 8 guys. Which, all
Yeah,
right,
they
fine.
did.
If you recruit a lot of the top players in the country, there's that risk. But I mean, even last year they lost like what, 4 players, and they get Derek
Hmm.
Curriell to campus. They get Kate Aaron Beatty to campus. They get William Schmidt to school. Like if you lose 4 guys in a year from your recruiting class, like that's on the
Yeah,
higher end.
they
This
lost
was
Ebel, McKenzie, Falsky, Quentin Young, Miguel
Landon
Cime Jr.,
Landon Hodge.
Dean Moss, Landon Hodge. I think they knew Landon Hodge was gone. They get Marcus Paz, who maybe could come back and get healthy and return to his previous
Marcos
status.
Paz, yeah, that one. Yeah, I think they're
Hmm.
probably feeling pretty good to get Marcos Paz, given he had TJ. But yeah, he's going to
Hmm.
be like that's perfect for him because he'll probably like Case and Evans
Yeah.
was this year. Work out of the bullpen, manage his workload. First full year really coming back from TJ, and then probably be there. Well, we'll see. I mean, Cam Johnson was a
Hmm.
really highly regarded prep prospect as well, and
Yeah.
now he's at Oklahoma. So um, we'll see. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was an interesting pick. I mean, you know, the Rays took what Tyler Bell, and he still went to Kentucky. So we'll see. Like
Hmm.
they got to sign all these guys. But yeah, it's a strike zone discipline. There's bat speed there with Dean. Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably more corner outfield than center field. The instincts I think are fine in center field, just not the raw foot speed, especially for a Rays center fielder
Hmm.
to have. So, but I like those 2 picks.
Cool. Let's move on to the Red Sox at 15.
Yeah, Kyson
Switching up, going with a
Witherspoon.
pitcher.
Yeah, right. Finally, some pitching for Boston to get their hands on. I mean, we had him obviously significantly higher. Did it? Did you expect him to still be available here? I mean, it seems like last year, what Braden Montgomery becomes
Hmm.
available, they grab him, and now Kyson Witherspoon. Hey, pleasantly surprised to scoop you up here.
Yeah, Red Sox have been in this position where they just seem to get some of these guys in a tier above where they're picking and happily take them when they get there, which I think is a good strategy for any class. Clearly, a willingness to go for arms. I mean, maybe more of a concerted effort just to take arms in this class for them. They only had 2 hitters in the first 10 rounds. No, they had three. Maximus Martin was also a hitter that they took in the 10th, but a pitcher heavy class for them. I mean, Witherspoon was always one of these arms that we had slipping a little. For whatever reason, he just seemed to be the player who's going to be more likely to fall outside of the top 10. And so we had mocked him like 12, 13, like not really knowing where a great home was for him. Um, so yeah, I think it's a great value here for the Red Sox with their first overall pick. I like him as much as I like any other college pitcher in this class. Really, he's a comparable talent, maybe has more dynamic pure stuff than some of the other college pitchers. Certainly the fastball just has more impressive velocity. He holds it well. I do wonder like what the baseline for his strike throwing is going to be because there were real questions a year ago. He made real strides with it this spring, improved in a big way. You could maybe say that his control is better than the 50 grade we have on it now, but that was a little bit conservative just given what he'd shown in the past. I think he's shown enough of a pitch mix to have some confidence that he's going to develop a plus. breaking ball, whether it's the slider, whether it's the cutter. He's got a curveball as well. So I think just impressive spring for him to show more of what he can do and perform consistently. Um, After that, a little bit more of a mixed bag for me for this class. Like I think both with Henry Godbout at 75 and the comp for their comp pick, and then Mason White in the fourth round. Both those guys feel okay on value based on where we had them on our board. I just have real questions with both those profiles. I think neither of them are shortstops. I'm actually kind of surprised Godbout was drafted as a shortstop. He was mostly playing second base this spring, and I think that's definitely where he's going to profile. Real impact questions with Godbout, and then with Mason White, kind of the opposite. Like he swings all the time at everything and has a ton of impact. And when he connects, it looks really pretty, but I have real swing and miss concerns with him. Maybe these profiles getting in a system like Boston is good for them because Boston has clearly done a nice job with their hitting development, regardless of really what the question mark is with you. And then Anthony Ianson has never been like the pitcher I gravitate towards in the second tier of pitchers, but that's also in like the 30s and 40s, and they got him at 87. And so I think getting him there is actually pretty good value. Um, he's a really good athlete, throws a lot of strikes, good feel for the secondaries. And like I figured I'd be talking about some questions about the impact with his fastball, but in the third round, I think the talent fits phenomenally well, actually.
All right. Then
No
we got
thoughts
the
on Red Sox for you?
I think you covered it pretty
Okay.
well. I mean, a very college heavy class too, so
Yeah.
you'll especially beyond the top guys, you're gonna know them
Gotcha.
better
Cool.
better than I do. But yeah, obviously very pitching heavy. I mean, yeah, Ianson was the name that jumped out as far as he's still available here.
Right.
What's
Right.
what? That's a little surprising.
Mhm.
So it seems like between him and Kyson Witherspoon, they had two guys who we certainly expected were
Mhm.
going to go. Maybe Witherspoon, I don't know, expected, but we had them ranked higher than where they ended up
Yep.
um, going. So, and then the Twins taking Merrick Houston, shortstop from Wake Forest, with their first overall pick this year. Riley Quick, big right-handed pitcher from Alabama. Quentin Young, enormous high school hitter with gigantic power, and obviously is still available there because in the second round because of questions about swing and miss and where he ultimately is going to fit defensively. But what'd you make of what the Twins did?
I think the Twins were drafting off the BA board here for this one because we
Yeah.
had Merrick Houston ranked 14th. He goes 16th. Riley Quick, we had him ranked 35th. He goes 36th. Quentin Young, we had him ranked 56th. He goes 54. James Elwanger, we had him ranked 94. He goes 88. Uh, that's pretty dang close for all of those picks. So
Well,
if I came in here and said I didn't like this class, you could rightfully say, "Well, what the hell is your draft board then, Carlos?" So
there are
yeah,
models that plug in Baseball America rankings,
yeah.
and it sounds like they have a pretty heavy weight on ours. Maybe no, I'm just I'm
Maybe
just
that's
joking, but it
maybe
does
that's the
seem like
case.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a fun draft class, and Merrick Houston is a player that I've always liked more, I think, than a lot of people here at BA. I'm glad to see him go in this range because he was one of the college hitters that I think we'd heard there's a chance he's going to slip a little bit further than expected on draft day. I ultimately didn't move him out of our mock. He ended up at 18 to the D-backs. So I'm just kind of glad to see him here because I think there's a lot of safety, a lot of security with this profile. No doubt defensive shortstop and a really good one. I like the contact skills. I like the strides he's taken in the power department. He's got a lot more physical over the last year or so. And so I think they're just going to wind up with a really good player here. I mean, they got a profile that is a little different and in some ways a little similar in Kalen Culpepper. He's been really
Mm.
good offensively so far. I think Merrick is a little bit less power, a little bit more defense than Culpepper at the same time. So I'll be curious what they can do with him. And then I think really their next four picks are just really fun picks. Riley Quick has massive stuff, has not really spent a lot of time focused on pitching. So there's a lot of upside maybe that can be unlocked with him. Quentin,
Focused on pitching or just being on the mound?
Well, that too. He has dealt with
Okay.
some injury. He has a football background. He has not thrown a lot of innings, and so I think basically there's probably some low hanging fruit here to be picked with a good player development group. The Twins have done a nice job with their college arms in later rounds. This is not exactly a later round for Riley Quick, but I mean Quentin Young. I'm scared about how much he's going to make contact, but he does have huge tools. He's physical. He's got a ton of raw power. James Elwanger is kind of like a pitching version of Quentin Young. There's a lot of power to this stuff. I have concerns about how much strikes he's going to throw, but he can throw really hard. He can spin it. He's also another pitcher that I don't think has really had a ton of innings. He hasn't spent a lot of his time focused on pitching compared to some other peers who are at his same age. He's got a multi-sport background in high school. And so again, I think like upside plays for a lot of these guys after Merrick Houston, another upside play with a guy like Matt Barr, who's got just a tremendous spin capacity across his pitch mix, fastball up into the upper 90s, has also not thrown a ton of innings. And then Jason Reitz is a 6'11" pitcher, and how can that not be fun? So, a lot of just fun profiles and players, I think, for the Twins.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity to this class. Like, feels like something for
You're right.
everybody. Yeah, I mean Quentin Young and just among the high school guys, Quentin Young obviously stands out. I think that's like this is a fair range. I don't think like what a great pick or anything like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, this is a good place for him to go because you're betting on a guy who he might does he have he might have 70 raw power right now,
Yeah.
which when we talk about and this is the same thing with international players too, like first year international signings or international amateur players, when people talk about them, including scouts will talk, oh, this guy has, plus raw power, or this guy has, 70 raw power. And then, okay, take this 17 or 18-year-old kid, put him into a double A or a triple A batting practice around grown men who are, 23, 24 years old, and watch how he hits the ball compared to them. And then you tell me if you think this guy has 60 or 70 raw power.
Right.
But we can see the exit velocities that Quentin Young is throwing up there are like that's to me that I think that's 70 raw power right now. He could end up with 80 raw power. I mean, he's 6'6", obviously bloodlines with the uncles and everything, but um, big question marks about whether he's able to all put it all together and then where he ultimately ends up playing. I think no chance at shortstop.
I think
Hope,
right field.
yeah, I think hopefully third base. Like I'd put him at third base and see if he can stay there as long as possible, and if not, all right, right field. He does have a huge arm,
Mm,
um, but yeah, I mean, big power upside, and then risk with a lot of other things. But second round, sure, seems very fair to me.
mhm. Alright, let's go to the Cubs, picking 17th overall. They took your guy, Ethan Conrad. We thought he was a player who had a chance to go somewhere, like, I shouldn't say somewhere, like, a lot of potential landing spots in the 15 plus range, goes towards, like, one of the higher end of outcomes there. Followed by Kane Kepley. A lot of outfitters actually with the Cubs here. Cade Snell in the fifth round, Josiah Hartshorn in the sixth round out of Orange Lutheran High School, and Cade Snell out of Alabama. Then a couple of pitchers here with Dominic Reed out of Abilene Christian in the third, Caleb Wing, right-handed pitcher out of a high school in California, Scotts Valley, in the fourth. I quite like the first two picks here, Conrad and Kepley. I think great range for them to go in terms of talent. Um, really well rounded for both of them. More so Conrad, huge tools, great track record as a hitter, a lot of impact, runs really well for his size. Really, the only question mark is the shoulder injury, which hard to say how concerned you should be with that. I tend to be like not overly concerned. I think he'll hopefully just get back to normal after that's healed up, and hopefully not have any issues. But this one could look quite good if that injury is kind of a thing of the past when he gets back.
This is one of my favorite first round picks, especially of the second half of the first round.
Hmm.
I like Ethan Conrad even more than his teammate at Wake Forest, Merrick Houston, who went right ahead of him.
Yeah.
Um, it the injury is a very valid concern. I think that's why he's still available here and why you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I assume this is going to be an underslot deal
I
for
would
him.
assume so for now. I don't have his bonus yet, but yeah, that's kind of my
Right, I
running
assume
theory.
it probably will be, and that's why he went here. But um, otherwise, he probably would end up going later. But I like the track record of hitting. I like the swing. I like the power. There's physicality, bat speed. He's a good athlete for his size. He runs well. Does he run well enough and defend well enough for center field? I would say probably not. It's probably a corner outfielder, but I think the offensive skill set fits well in a corner, and I think he'll be a good defender if he's a corner outfielder instead of a center fielder. Just a lot of well-rounded tools, skills. Um, I we obviously wish we had more of a track record in the ACC. Obviously, very early in the season, it was good, but beating up on some weaker competition at the beginning of the season. But I think it all looks like it should work. The Cubs have had some good collegiate picks with their first rounders the last couple years. I think he's next in line. You comped him to Chase Louder. I think that fits.
Mhm.
Um, Now that's exciting in some ways, as Chase Louder is out now with yet again another injury. Maybe I'm getting the fell for it again award
Mhm.
here. So that is I mean that look, that's a valid risk. It's a valid concern, but the upside and the talent when he's healthy, especially for a hitter, compared to a pitcher where I'm a lot more cautious with injury concerns. I really like this pick for the Cubs.
Well, you say that you're cautious with injury concerns for pitchers. They do have a number of pitchers they took in this draft that have some injury concerns. Pierce Coppola has a ton of question marks on the medical side in the seventh round. You also have a guy in Eli Jersenbeck in the 11th round
Hmm.
who missed the 2024 season with TJ and then had a stress fracture in his right elbow that kept him out this year. Any thoughts on those two? Or maybe I think Jake Knapp and Cade Snell also two maybe priority senior signs, senior types for the Cubs here in the eighth for Jake Knapp out of North Carolina. And then Cade Snell in the fifth round out of Alabama. Both guys who are quite a bit older for the class, but do some things well. Cade Snell is a contact oriented outfield hitter with performance. Jake Knapp was one of the winningest pitchers in college baseball this year for whatever that is worth, but he does throw hard. He is massively physical. So maybe some interesting pitchers. And if you're optimistic about pitcher injuries, Pierce Coppola and Eli Jersenbeck are guys who have shown interesting stuff in the past. But I'll throw that at you. And then also, I think Josiah Hartshorn is a hitter that I'm kind of intrigued by. Another player here who has dealt with some injuries. Maybe the Cubs felt like they were just not too concerned by injuries in general here in this class because they, as we talk through it, there are a lot of players that have some medical questions. But the more I watched Josiah Hartshorn swing, the more I kind of liked him. It's a really interesting mix of strength and bat speed and hitting ability, and he's got a bigger frame, but he moves around pretty well despite that size. So I'd like to see what he looks like when he's fully healthy for a while and can get reps on both sides because I know he has been limited as both a left-handed hitter and right-handed hitter at times because of injuries.
Yeah, he just like started. Give him a lot of credit. He just started hitting from the other side of the plate than what was natural to him, and did that like throughout the summer circuit when all eyes were on him, which is really hard to imagine. Can't be like a fun experience. So I am curious to see how that works out in pro ball.
Yeah.
But the Diamondbacks, Case Cunningham, 18th, Texas high
Bravo.
school shortstop, seems like absolutely zero surprise that a team that would
Yeah.
like guys like you know Slade Caldwell or other shorter hitters who make a ton
Yep.
of contact would like Case Cunningham.
Yeah, love this pick. I'm kicking myself a little because in the final line of their mock draft, I wrote that I was really tempted to put Cunningham as the pick there. In hindsight, should have done it, but I'm thrilled that we didn't see Cunningham slide into the 20s. I know there was a lot of talk about him potentially slipping into this range. As you probably can figure based on how we talked about some of the other high school shortstops in this class, I like him better than some of the names who've gone in front of him. I think this is the best pure hitter in this class overall, high school or college. I just really think he knows how to hit. He's very instinctual. He always hits. His performance track record is excellent. Um, I think he's got a chance to stick at shortstop, and even if he doesn't play second base, I think he'll be a really good defender there at the position. Runs really well. So yeah, like this pick quite a bit. And then after that, it's a bunch of live arms that I like as well. Patrick Forbes, Brian Curley, really loud fastball slider combinations. Some reliever risk with both of those pitchers. Dean Livingston, another pitcher, just ton of arm speed, really impressive athlete on the mound. Background as a quarterback, great frame. He can add some strength to in the future, but the arm speed really stands out. Chance for a plus fastball, chance for an above average breaking ball, and I think both Patrick Forbes and Brian Curley probably have above average or plus sliders now to go along with power fastballs. So top four of this class, I like quite a bit.
Yeah, picking at 18, Cunningham was 12 on our rankings. I mean, you said it well with him. Just a really good hitter, makes a ton of contact. Any part of the strike zone, he's able to square it up. Really good hand-eye coordination. I think the defense is better than people think. I mean, worst case scenario, he goes to second base. I think he has a chance to actually play shortstop, but either way, he's going to be a middle infielder. I think that defensive instincts are pretty good. Good actions out there, good internal clock, and I'm just a big believer in the bat. Like I would rather have him than Daniel Pierce. I would rather have him than Steele Hall, two high school shortstops who
Throw
went
Billy
ahead of him.
Carlson in there, and I'll agree with you too.
Well, it's
A
getting
bridge too far for Ben.
we're getting into a bigger debate here, but yeah, I mean, look, I think he's probably just as good of just as good of a pure hitter as JoJo Parker.
Yep.
Parker's 6'2", and I think there's probably more power and
Yep.
upside with JoJo Parker, but it's a very long track record of hitting with Case and Cunningham, which only means so much, obviously, when they were younger. But I mean, I just one of the higher confidence bats for how he's going to hit and translate pretty quickly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's get into Baltimore and the biggest bonus pool in the class, the biggest bonus pool we've ever seen. One, two, three, four picks in the top 40. Then they had their second rounder, an extra pick in between their second and third round. So the bar is very high for this Baltimore class. We should really like it because of all this pick capital, all this money. Do you find yourself liking what Baltimore did with all their picks, Ben?
Not all their picks, but most of them. Ike Irish, as much as I question like where is he going to play and how is it going to fit if it's not at catcher 19, I think we're surprised he's still here. But then I wonder how much of it is okay. These teams are having negotiations. Like we can't like. I mean, I don't think there's a way to like show it on the live draft broadcast, but like at the time it's happening. But behind the scenes, these teams are on the phones with the agents, working out trying to work out deals with players and
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, like, whether it's Ike Irish or whatever player, hey, we're the Orioles. We have a ton of bonus pool money. If you can get yourself, tell them if you can get yourself to our pick, we have X million dollars for you. Is it something where the Orioles could have said, made an offer like that to Irish and said, hey, tell other teams you're not going to sign with them unless you get 4 million or 5, whatever the number is, to try to
Right.
get with the goal of saying
Yes,
slide down
set
to
a high
us
number. Yep.
and we'll pay you over slot here and we'll pay you this much money? Or do you think it could just be, hey, other teams were concerned about whether he's going to catch or whatever, or just liked other players ahead of him, and
Right.
Orioles ended up getting one of the better collegiate hitters down here?
Yeah, it could be a combination of both, but I do think that like when a player like this starts sliding, if you're the agent, you are looking at the Orioles and you're saying this would be a landing spot we feel good about because they have all this money. So I think it can work both ways. I mean, we wrote a story about the Orioles draft once they acquired this 37th overall pick and jumped the Mariners for the biggest bonus pool, and talked about like in the past, hey, we see players slide regularly. In 2024, Trey Savage, number 11, goes 20th. In 2022, Kevin Parada, top 5 was getting talked about, went 11. Cam Collier slid to 18. Khalil Watson, expected to be a top 10 pick, fell to the Marlins at 16. 2018 class, both Matthew Liberatore, Brady Singer, top 5 players on our board. They go 16 to 18 to the Rays and Royals that have big bonus pools. And so we wrote, the odds seem reasonable that someone among our top 12 players in the class will slide further than we expect them to. Perhaps the Orioles can capitalize if that happens. At the very end of this piece, we said, or will it be more likely that they can get a player like Ike Irish, Tyler Bremner, or JoJo Parker, all of whom are expected to go in front of the Orioles down to their 19th pick and signed on a big overslot deal? These scenarios always sound a bit unbelievable before draft day, but again, someone always slides. So Ike Irish is the guy who slid. His hit power combination and left-handed bat feel like good fits for players the Orioles have targeted in the past. I think 19 is exceptional value for his profile, even with the defensive concerns. I'll be curious to see like what the actual bonus he's going to get is, but I think Ike just kind of started a trend for the Orioles in this draft that continued with each of their next picks. Caden Bodine at 30th overall, good value for me. Vahiva Loy at 31, good value for me. Slater DeBrun, 37, good value for me. I think once you get into Joseph Jerwa, their first pitcher at 58 overall, this is when like, okay, they start to make more sense, like straight up on board in terms of talent. But I really think each of their first 4 picks, all guys that I think are legitimate first round talents and could have easily gone in front of those picks. So it's hard to not like both the quantity and quality of this class
Were
for
you
me.
surprised that they went 2 catchers back to back, especially when you have Adley Rushman and Samuel Basayo coming? Or was
Not
it?
particularly. I'm more surprised that it's Caden Bodine and not Luke Stevenson because I just heard
Hmm.
them more tied to Luke Stevenson than Caden Bodine. But if they would have taken like Irish and Luke Stevenson, I wouldn't have been surprised at all, really, especially when you factor in the Ike Irish, like, is he really a catcher thing? And I mean, I don't remember how he was announced on draft day, but our board typically picks up how they were selected. Ike Irish selected as a catcher is interesting. And then following up with Bodine um, is maybe interesting. But like I say this all the time, if you think these are the best players available, and I believe on our draft board, those guys would have been the best players available, or at least in the conversation. I think it makes a ton of sense. If all these guys pan out, it's a great problem to have. Trade them and get something else that you need on your team. So no issues with that for me.
Yeah, Basayo very much could fit at first base or DH or somewhere else. Irish could be, I mean, mostly played outfield this year anyway. So, yeah, I agree. It's especially this later in the process makes a lot of sense to me.
Any thoughts on the Orioles not targeting pitchers higher up? I mean, they took Joseph Jerwa in the second round. They took JT Quinn, a right-hander out of Georgia, at the 69th overall pick. I know, at least among their fan base, there was a lot of clamoring for arms, just because I think it's a need at the big league level. Maybe it's more of a need in the organization as well. But this is now every single year that Mike Elias has drafted for the Orioles, they have never taken a pitcher inside the top 50 picks. So I just don't think they're gonna take arms that high.
Yeah, I could have seen doing it, maybe starting, well, either at 31 or if you really like Aloy, 37. I think you're higher on Slater DeBrun than I am. I think it's already pretty maxed out physically. I'm not sure there's going to be a ton of power or impact there. It's going to be more of a
Wow,
slappish
this is a
type bat.
young short hitter, Ben, and you're out. What did
Uh,
Lil Slay do to you?
he's, look, he's a good prospect, but this high,
I like him more
not
than
not
Slade
not
Caldwell
not for
from a
me.
year ago, and he went 10 picks higher.
Yeah, I don't know. With both guys, I don't know how much ultimate like damage there's going to be. Everybody wants to comp these guys to like Corbin Carroll.
I
Not all
don't.
these,
Please
yeah, not
don't
all
put
these
that on
guys
me.
are
Don't put
Corbin
that on me.
Carroll. Um, yeah, but no, I mean overall, they came away. I think they came away with a lot of talent, as
Mhm.
you should when you have a gazillion dollars in picks to
Yeah, it'll be
roll
interesting
around.
too. I know we're spending a lot of time in the Orioles. I think it's warranted just given their pick capital, but it has seemed like a lot of the times the teams with all these extra picks, all this bonus pool money, like they've not panned out to be as good classes as you would expect. Thinking of like the Rays and the Royals with recent draft hauls in recent years. See if the Orioles can knock a few of these guys out. But I guess we'll move on to the Brewers at 20.
Yeah,
Taking
A- Andrew Fisher, I guess announced as a third baseman,
that
University of
was crazy
Tennessee.
to me.
Yeah, I mean
uh,
they're
just
trying.
put him at first base and let him bang. He's not even a good defensive first baseman right now. What are we
Well,
doing at third base?
maybe they just think he's on the wrong
Slide up the
position.
defensive spectrum. Okay. No, thank you.
You
Just let
believer
him hit. I'm a huge believer in the
in
bat. So I mean, I'll come out and say I was wrong if he plays third base and plays it well. I was wrong on Aiden Miller playing shortstop to the level he's playing it. I certainly will be wrong again moving forward with some of these players, but yeah, highly skeptical of the third base profile, but not at all skeptical of what he does in the batter's box. Just checks a lot of the boxes. It's very Michael Bush esque for me, for Fisher.
mm,
Patient, selective, power, contact. Um, and that plays fine at first base. And then Brady Ebel at 32. It was fun to see the Corona guys all get stuffed pretty high. This is now the highest trio ever for a high school group of teammates, all of them inside the top 32. The next trio after them is not even close in terms of just like summing their draft position. So they kind of shattered that record. I think in terms of like high school duo, there's still one other duo that if you just take the pick slots and add them together, Seth Hernandez and Billy Carlson are not quite the highest, but they are the only two that have both gone inside the top 10 picks. And then some left-handed pitchers that I like, JD Thompson. That feels like a slam dunk value in the second round, or not a value, but like a slam dunk. He fits here as a perfectly appropriate pick here. Kind of expected a number of teams to like him in the second. And then Frank Chiron. I wasn't sure exactly how high he was going to go. He was a guy we kept kind of pushing up the board this year, started throwing harder this spring, really knows how to spin a breaking ball, extremely young for the class, gets great extension. So I do think like this is one of the players who it seems like the combine really helped sort of crystallize how unique some of the data was with Chiron for a lot of teams. Um, and the Brewers kind of did the playbook you expected them, Ben. Hitters up top and
hmm
then loading up on arms. You feel like they can do some positive things in a player development capacity with.
And on the high school side, two guys in Brady Ebel and Frank Chiron who are very young for their class, both 17 years old still.
Hmm.
Um, Brady Ebel, kind of like Ethan Holiday in the sense of very prominent high school prospects who kind of always just like waiting for them to go out and dominate, and neither one of them really did that ever. But like the swing looks so good from the left side. It's very easy, controls the strike zone, very polished, obviously very professional. Coming, his dad being the Dino Ebel, the Dodgers third base coach. Um, Probably more third base, I think, than shortstop, which, on Corona High School with Billy Carlson at shortstop, he was already playing third base. Anyway, I'm sure the Brewers will give him. Well, I imagine the Brewers will give him a shot at shortstop, see what happens. But
Yeah.
just a lot
Selected
of
as a shortstop. So I would assume that's the
yeah,
case.
a lot of traits to like. And then Frank Chiron, big time helium arm this year, has a lot of traits I think the Brewers are going to like, or clearly do like. But that they've targeted, lower release height, lefty up to 94, can spin a slider, good extension. Kind of like a Johnny King type profile. Johnny King with the Blue Jays high school pick the year before. So yeah, I like what they did.
Yeah, and then just really quickly, some interesting high school projection plays on I guess day two now, but 11 plus round range. CJ Hughes, Cooper Underwood, Gavin Lardson, California, Georgia, and California high school products, respectively. I would assume the guys in this 11 to 13 round range are in signable territory, but the Brewers also signed a number of players last year in this range as simply backup options. And so there are also a number of high school players in the 17 plus round range for them that I think are probably more just straight up backup plans, but I would love to see what they can do with Underwood and Lordson specifically. So some interesting names even further down for me for the Brewers.
All right. 21 Houston Astros taking Xavier Nyans, high school. I think they announced him as a shortstop, right?
They
To
did. I kind of assumed he would be announced as a shortstop, just considering he's he's played there a lot,
right?
assuming you don't think he's gonna stick there.
Probably not. No, I think third base maybe I think third base probably best case scenario. Some risk he
Mhm,
goes elsewhere, but I mean you're buying big left-handed power and a really patient approach too, and then swing and miss that comes with it, and you hope he can keep it in check because I think he's going to
mhm.
draw a lot of walks and could hit 30 plus home runs if everything comes together for him.
Yeah. Yeah, this class for me is really centered on and starts and ends with Xavier Nyans. I think there's a lot of pressure on him to carry this class. I will be curious what the signability comes out for this class because I do think after Nyans, there are a lot of players the Astros took that are just a lot higher than our board indicates. Um, I think I have a lot of question marks with basically every other player in the top 10 rounds here. And so I wonder if that is like them having to take some profiles that they could pay in a range to make sure they got nine signed, or if it's just a case that we are lower than the Astros for most of their class. Cause I mean, there's not another player I can really point to and say I have like a ton of excitement. Like all these guys are interesting in some way or another, but like even Ethan Frey, their third round pick, and then like we ranked him 300 plus. And I think he's very one dimensional, sort of college bat with power. I think maybe like a DH profile. So I just think there's a lot of risk here with some of the players further down the board. Are there any guys that I'm maybe sleeping on that you like, or do you view it similarly?
It was very college heavy. So other
Mm,
than Chase Mitchell, so
yeah,
like you know those guys better than I do down the
yeah.
board.
Okay,
What?
we'll move on to the Braves, who shifted things up this year.
Yeah, a lot of hitters with
Hmm.
their top what 6 picks? What one,
Hmm.
2, 3, 4, 5 hitters in their top 6 picks, including Tate Southesine, high school shortstop with their first round pick. What'd you think of what they did?
If they had taken Alex Lodis in the first round and Tate Southesine in the second, I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it and would have liked it fine. I was surprised to hear Southesine's name called when it was at 22. The Braves have been really aggressive on getting their deals done early, and so we have some more context for both of these picks. Southesine was a pretty significant underslot deal at 22, and they actually saved a little bit with Lodis at 60, which I think that pick looks like a great value just in terms of like actual pick capital and the bonus that we know of, basically $1.3 million dollars for him. Um, I'm a little more skeptical of Southasine in particular, but again, pairing him with Lodis makes me feel fine about what they did in the first two rounds. Maybe you can push me to be more aggressive with Southasine, but obviously Briggs McKenzie is going to be a big overslot name for them in the fourth round.
Right.
Getting him there, he was one of the best available players on our board entering day two. And so the Braves still do find a way to add some pitching talent in the draft, even if I think for the first time in like 6 years now, it's a hitter with their first pick, which I think a lot of their fans were excited to see bats coming off the board early and often, and then shortstops as well. Cody Miller also one of two players drafted on night one who we did not have on the BA 500. East Tennessee State shortstop. I mean, he showed a huge jump in power production this year and also has a really impressive contact rate just on the data. So I guess we'll see what happens with him. Another like under slot pay here. So I don't think it was like a like clearly the signability was a factor, I should say, in the third round. But yeah, just worth noting he was one of the two guys we did not have on the 500 and on night one.
What is the risk with Tate Southesine that gives you some pause?
Again, it's probably more just like there were a lot of other high school shortstops on the board at this pick that I liked better or would have preferred. Like guys like Josh Hammond, still available. Slater DeBrun, not a shortstop, but still available. Um, Brady Ebel, still available. I don't know if Sean Gamble was still available. Ryan Mitchell, Coy James, like Tate Southesine is ranked along, like in the range with a lot of those guys I just named. But for whatever reason, for me personally, it's just been harder to get on board entirely. I don't like he has more power than you would think given his size, but the swing has so many moving pieces to me that I'm a little hesitant. Um, I think he's a good defender and a good athlete and can play multiple positions well. I have some questions about like what the hit power combination is going to be. And he is a smaller guy. He's not like Slater DeBrun small, but I feel more confident in Slater's pure hitting ability and defensive tools than I feel like I feel with Tate's.
Yeah, I like Tate South has seen more than you, I think, and
Yeah.
certainly more than I like DeBrune. It's yeah, there's I don't know. Some people don't like bigger moving parts in swings, but um, I don't know. Those people wouldn't like Bo Bichette in high school either. Yeah, I think he can hit. It's good hand-eye coordination. The whole family has it. Like his brother, older brother Ty was a fourth round pick of the Cubs last year. Younger
And
brother for
Tate is
next
the
year has
best
it
of the
too.
trio, right?
Well, yes. I really like Ty, especially when he was younger. But Tate has a lot more power than either of his brothers. There's power. I think he can hit like good hand-eye coordination helps him make a lot of contact, even with some bigger parts to his swing. If he needs to tone it down a little bit, I'm sure he can. Um, I think there's hitting ability. I think there's power. TBD, like yeah, ultimately where he ends up fitting best defensively as he gets closer to the big leagues, and is he
I
a
could
guy that
see
was
him
like a
being like a super utility type too. I think he's that sort of like instinctual player where he could be valuable in a number of positions. But
yeah, I like him. I have more questions about Alex Lodis and how that approach is going to work
mhm.
um, higher up. It seems like there's a lot of I don't know, maybe more so like the college fans who were like, "How can you guys not have Alex Lodis in the first round after what he did this year?" And
For
then
mock draft stuff or for rankings?
either one. I mean, he went
Yeah, we ranked him
60th
towards the
overall.
back. We ranked him towards the back of the first round, 26 overall, and he didn't go there. I was always talking about like I was wondering why we had less chatter, but clearly the industry didn't view him there. And this is just another good reminder. Like there are a lot of high performing college players. Like performance in college is not the end all be all. I know Jake Knapp, UNC fans were on us for like, why do we not have Jake Knapp ranked higher? Or why do we not have Rylan Zaborowski at Georgia ranked higher? And you really cannot just scout the stat line and have a good feel for where these players are going to go. I like Lodis more than you. I think he is a very aggressive hitter. He needs to tone that down at the next level, but I think it's a really impressive athletic foundation. He's physical. He has impact. I think he gets vastly underrated as a defender at shortstop. I think he has all the actions to stick there and be a good defender. He's got a great arm. So for me, it's going to come down to like, what is the approach going to develop into if it does at all? But I think there's some exciting physical tools here.
Okay. Royals picked after them. They go like announced as an outfielder. He's played infield too. Sean Gamble from IMG Academy, number 23 overall. 5 picks later, with their Bobby Witt Jr. PPI pick. Josh Hammond, another high school shortstop. Did you like what they did this
I
year?
loved what they did because we had Josh Hammond mock 28th, so they made me look like not a fool at that pick. So feels like very Royals-ish sorts of picks here. Athletic, high upside, high school hitters with some tools. I actually prefer Hammond to Gamble. Um, I think they both fit reasonably well on talent in this range. I may be a little bit more questionable about like Gamble's offensive ability.
He can get out of control for sure at times with
Yeah,
his
but
swing.
it's I go back and forth though too because he made some really impressive adjustments over the circuit, made a lot more contact and showed an ability to just make adjustments that was exciting. He's very dynamic in terms of his running ability. It's weird because he was playing a lot of second base at the IMG Academy. I think he's going to wind up being a better center fielder than who's the center Dean Moss who played center field at
Interesting.
IMG. I would imagine.
Their shortstop is a 2027 Max Hemingway, who I think we
Mhm.
have number 3 in the class, who's just like a really good defender at
Yeah,
shortstop.
so it's odd to see a high school second baseman drafted this high, but I mean, Sean Gimble has played some shortstop. He's played on the left side of the infield. He's played outfield. To me, he always has looked more instinctive and natural in the outfield. I think his arm plays better. from the outfield. I think he can run around, and I think just the baseline speed and athleticism could maybe translate nicely. Josh Hammond is a really exciting upside play here at 28. Um, I mean, such an impressive athlete who can do it on the mound. His raw power is really impressive. The way that he like goes about it on the field is fun to watch. He's a very intense player. He's got one of the better pure arms in the class on the left side of the infield. Maybe he doesn't have the foot speed to stick at shortstop. Maybe he'll slide to third base. The swing can get long at times. There's some missed questions, but it's a really fun upside play there. So I'm excited about both of them, even though I think there's some risk.
If it doesn't work out with Josh Hammond, just put him on the mound, and you
Put
have
him
one
on
of the
the
better
mound.
high
Yep.
school pitching prospects this year. But certainly a lot of scouts who are raving about him as a hitter this spring.
Yeah, Michael Lombardi, really big stuff on the mound. Another one like Lombardi is a guy who is a two-way player. He's done it on both sides in college, but his stuff is just really impressive on the mound. Been up to 97, great carry, curveball is sharp and hard. I think in terms of like the stuff plus numbers that we have internally, Lombardi was one of the more exciting pitchers in the class, and clearly Kansas City likes these sort of two-way guys, just like athletes with stuff and tools. Um, yeah, no huge thoughts on more players further on the board for me right now, and my voice is also starting to die. So
What about all right? Well, getting toward the end of the first round, and we'll hit on obviously Mets, Yankees, Dodgers after that too. But Tigers 24. This was the one where it re- it really surprised me the
yeah, weird
direction
weird
that
draft.
they went.
Maybe the
Uh,
weirdest draft this year for me. Most surprising. Um, I mean, Jordan Yost and Michael Oliveto both have Tigers tendencies in the sense that they're like hitterish, left-handed hitting high school bats. But I also thought both of them were like taken a lot sooner than I expected them to go off the board. I know Jordan Yost was very split campy, and there were some people who thought he was much more similar to Kellen Lindsay from a year ago. Some others thought he was just a lot further away physically, needed more power, maybe some more questions like the shortstop profile. Oliveto was a guy who didn't have a ton of track record on the circuit, had a really loud fall, has a really pretty swing, looked good this spring. And so like I like these players to different degrees, but I don't know that I would have taken either of them in the top 40 picks, let alone both. So that was kind of interesting to me. And then Nick Dumanel in the 8th round, we had him slated as a guy that I expected to be a top 2, top 3 round sort of pick. And for basically half the day on Monday, it was Nick Dumanel and Henry Ford were the only 2 college hitters on our best available board. That board is typically just all the high school players that get beyond their range of signability and they're starting to go to school.
hmm.
I'm not entirely sure how Nick Dumanel fell to the 8th round, whether we were just far too high on him or I don't, it feels odd to say like a college hitter had a deal and wound up going in the 8th round because those profiles just tend to go. Um, I would have liked him somewhere in the second to third round range on value, but again, like part of me is wondering how he fell this far, and part of me is like, this feels like really great value in the 8th round. Um, but yeah, this is maybe the trickiest class for me to evaluate because I just have a lot more questions than like players I'm like jumping up and down about.
I did not like this draft at all for the Tigers. I disliked what they did more than any other team's draft. I will say, I wonder if this was their plan A or if they got their
I think they
pocket
got their
picks.
pocket picked for the first, but even still.
Yeah, and if they just had to quickly audible to a plan B or C, because in the draft, if you're taking a player, generally speaking, you've already have an understanding of what the deal or the parameters of the deal are going to be, right? Because you don't want to just take a guy who you don't end up signing because you lose the pick for this year, and then it disrupts everything that you're doing later on down the road, the board, um, with your other picks, right? So remember in 2023, the Dodgers drafted Kendall George, high school outfielder with number 36 overall pick, which
Yeah.
I remember because it was one spot after the Marlins took Thomas White, uh, and did not like that pick at the time because you had Kevin McGonigal sitting there, and he went to the Tigers. They scooped him up one pick later.
Hmm.
Because Kendall George is a nice player. He's an 80 runner, center fielder, great bat to ball, uh, but it's 20 power, minimal projection to add power, pretty little guy. So like if you liked him, for me, I don't know, fourth round, maybe third round, you take a shot. But the Dodgers took him at 36, and it basically came out, I think, from Kendall George himself that the Dodgers were planning to take him later, but then something happened
Right.
late, and they audible to take him at 36 and just paid him under slot because
Hmm.
they knew they could sign him there. I'm wondering if something similar happened to the Tigers this year. Sean Gamble was the guy who went one pick ahead of them to the Royals at 23. We were just talking about, and
Hmm.
I like Sean Gamble, but he was 45 on our board, probably ahead of where or probably in the range. 45 is probably right around where a lot of teams had him, I'm guessing. So it's not like a guy like Xavier Nyans, who was a couple picks ahead of him,
Hmm.
who you're pretty confident Xavier Nyans was going to be a first round pick. I don't think you would say
Hmm.
the same thing about Sean Gamble. So
Yeah, that seems fair.
maybe they were just caught off guard and had to quickly change course, and that's how they ended up with Jordan Yost
Mm.
as their first round pick. I'm not really scratching my head on what they did because I can see what they did. They took left-handed hitters who make a lot of contact. I just thought they took them too high.
Yeah.
Yost is 82 on our rankings. I know, like you said, he was a split camp guy. There were a lot of scouts who liked him. He's a high contact guy. It's just not much strength, not much power. It's a lot of singles. I'd struggle to see a first round pick. Where we have him ranked is probably even higher. For a split camp guy, we're probably splitting the difference, and
Hmm.
he's higher than where I would have him too. So okay, fine. Let's see how the draft plays out after that pick. Then at 34, Michael Oliveto, high school catcher. I like the swing. It's a really intriguing left-handed bat. Not tested a lot against top competition on the circuit. Okay, maybe he's maybe he's undervalued because of that. There's offensive traits to like, questions how much power he comes into, um, but there is strength projection there. And does he stick behind the plate or move? Just a high school catching is always risky. He's number 117 on our board. I do like the player. I just don't like the spot where they drafted him. It's just
Yeah.
too early. I think there were better players available. And you can't just say, oh, I like Michael Oliveto, so I like the pick. If there's better players available, there's an
Right.
opportunity cost on passing on those players. So if you underslot your first round pick, fine. I'll wait to see how the rest of it plays out. But they just didn't draft players after that who I thought had the talent either commensurate with where they were picked or beyond where they were picked to really
Hmm.
make up for it. The one I did like was River Hamilton,
I do
um,
like him. Yeah.
their 11th round pick, high school pitcher out of Oregon. I thought that was one of the better 11th round picks this year. And I don't know if the 11th round seems a little bit down to me this year because usually that's where, okay, like you're getting your first chance at, um, not not over slot because I guess there's no slots right
Hmm.
in the 11th round, but
Money
guys
that will
who
come out of your pool. Yeah.
right to spend guys on, and maybe it's, I don't know if it's because day two and what was day three are now one day, so you just have less time to work out
Yeah.
those deals quickly. But
I felt the teams were playing it a little more straight up than they typically have in the past. As we get the signing numbers to come out, we'll get a clearer idea of like how those strategies maybe compared to previous years, but it did feel a little bit different to me this year, and maybe just the
yeah,
pace was part of that.
so I'll assume that they took River Hamilton and will sign him. So I like that, but otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't love it this year.
Cool. All right, let's go to the Padres, 25th overall. Didn't have a ton of pick capital this year. No second round pick, no extra picks. They go with a guy that feels very San Diego Padres in Cruz Schoolcraft, 25th overall. I was curious to see if they would actually be able to take him and pay him because there's a lot of other teams around them with multiple picks who I also heard tied to them. But no, Padres say we're gonna take a bunch of upside. We're gonna continue with our high school run. We love these high school lefties, and they get the second best high school pitcher in the class at 25, which to me feels very fair on value here.
Yeah, he feels very Padres-ish too.
Mhm.
Left-handed pitcher, high school player, big. Big is an understatement. Enormous, 6'8". Um, Left-handed pitcher, power arm. Hopefully the breaking ball takes a step forward. But a lot to like there. Wish they would let him two-way, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So
Boo on the
I'll
two-way.
I'll say
You and
that.
Greg Amsinger can go petition the Padres to see if he can be a two-way player.
Well, we can we can
I mean,
have that fall on deaf ears, I'm sure.
tools and upside with later picks as well. Ryan Weidman, really impressive athlete, big league frame, big power, speed. I don't think the offensive line that he had with Western Kentucky this year is indicative of like the sort of pro hitter I expect him to be at the next level. But I think in the third round, just the power speed combination you're getting here is solid value. I think we had him ranked maybe 20 or spots higher, 20 so spots higher on our board. Michael Salina in the fourth round, huge arm talent. Had TJ this spring, only threw 17 innings. He's been up to 100 miles per hour with the fastball. And then Ty Harvey also feels fairly San Diego Padres ish. Physical catcher with power and arm strength. Risky profile in general for some teams, but a chance to have a couple carrying tools there with Harvey. Those are kind of the standouts for me for the Padres.
Yeah. Padres, or excuse me, Phillies picked after them. 26. They get Gage Wood from Arkansas. I know just doing the live show with Peter and Jacob, they were raving about this pick. Did you love it as much as they did? Where were you at on what they did?
I mean, I think Gagewood fits on talent really anywhere from 15 plus. He has a real fastball that misses bats, has great shape. He's got a power breaking ball. I thought the way Lance Brosdowski on the network broke down just the combination of power and depth that he's able to get on that pitch was just showed you maybe how much of an outlier sort of breaking ball it is. It is a lot harder of a curveball than you typically get. And in the 37 innings he threw this year, he was just dominant from like a peripheral perspective. It was a 46% strikeout rate. He didn't walk a ton of batters. I mean, I do think there's some question marks here with Wood, which is why I think he was available at 26. The Phillies have been perfectly willing to take some of these profiles that have a little bit of risk, but grab the best talents they see available on the board. He's got a lot of medical questions. He does not have a long track record of throwing strikes to this degree that he did. And so I do wonder ultimately like what sort of command and control he's going to show. So I think this is a fair pick for the 20s. I think you're getting a lot of upside here, and I think it comes with a lot of risk. So I like it. I don't love it. Like I'm not going to gush about it because I understand like why he's available here. But if he stays healthy, which I think is a reasonable question mark, you could have a pitcher that fits more closely to some of the guys who went in front of him than where he went. So
Yeah, I think that's fair. I probably lean more toward what you're saying than what Jacob and Peter were, because I think the stuff
take
is
that, youngins. Take that, you young kids.
that's that's where I agree that like this, when he's out there on the mound, the stuff is really good. I don't think we disagree about the quality of stuff coming out of his
Mhm.
hands when he's out there, when he's healthy. Um, but he did have a shoulder injury this year. He was a starter really for the first time after being a reliever the last two seasons, and he threw 37 and two thirds innings over 10 starts, so under 4 innings per start. If somebody really like jumped up and grabbed him in the top 15 picks, I wouldn't love that. Get him in the back of the first round, given the upside. all right, fine. But I think sometimes we get enamored over a guy like a Jaden Hill or a Reggie Crawford coming out. I was like, oh my god, like this guy, I saw this. He had the best stuff I saw on the Cape. Yeah, he's threw like an inning or two there. Like these guys who have especially a shoulder or elbow issue, and then very limited track record of being able to have the durability to start over uh, 3 years of college. uh, it can work out. It could be like Walker Bueller. Kate Horton is looking pretty good right now, but um, I just I see more. I don't know. I have more concerns with the risk maybe than the people who are highest
Right.
are most excited about it.
Yeah, very pitcher heavy draft here for the Phillies as well. They went straight pitcher through the first 8 rounds, took Matthew Ferrara, a high school shortstop out of New Jersey in the ninth, and then another pitcher in Cole Gilly in the 10th. Um, Matthew Fisher in the seventh, I assume, is going to be a fairly big overslot pay. We had him right around 100 on our draft board. Really loud fastball slider combination with him. Older for the class, but I don't think that is too big of a concern on the pitching side. At least I'm not too bothered by it. I like Cody Bowker's fastball, Vanderbilt right-handed pitcher in the 3rd round. Good riding life from a lower slot for Bowker. And then the one pick that I thought was really confusing to me, and then clearly we're just lower on him than some other places. Like I know Jim Callis over at MLB Pipeline had Cade Overmuller ranked a lot higher than we did, but he's a really small left-handed pitcher from Iowa. I mean, one of the lighter listed players we have in the class, 6 foot, 170 pounds. It's a sinker slider combination from a really low slot, so there's a lot of deception. But I wonder about the upside here for Obermiller at the pro level. I have some questions about that pick. I'm not sure if you share those concerns at all, but I thought that was a little high for me. But I do think they've got some other interesting arms between Fisher and Bowker and Brian Walters in the 8th round. So
Well, the Guardians picked at 27, and it seems like their draft was everything we were expecting.
or exactly
Um,
just how we
guys
drew it
who
up.
swing and miss, big tools, all
Yeah,
the
huge power.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
what the heck with Cleveland?
they stopped the slide though for Jace Laviolette. I mean, is
Did
this
they? I mean, kind of expected him to go somewhere in this range. I think this is
well?
just kind of
He
where he played himself to be. So,
Well, I guess depending. Yeah. All right. Well, however you want to phrase it, they got
I
him.
stopped
They
his
got him off the
preseason
board, and
slide.
they kept him in the first round. Jace
Yeah.
Laviolette was a first round pick.
Yeah, I did not draw up Jace Laviolette and Nolan Schubart to be Cleveland Guardians this year. They feel very non-Cleveland-esque. And really, I think I like Cleveland's draft in terms of talent, both Jace Laviolette at 27, Dean Curley, shortstop at Tennessee at 64, Nolan Schubart even, who it's a really dicey profile for me, but at 101,
Seems
like
like
I
a
think
lot of buy low types
right,
with
right,
Laviolette, Curly. Like
right.
Curly we thought would be a first round pick. It was lower
Mhm.
on him than the consensus, but I assumed he would probably be a first round pick, not be available here at the back of the
Did you
second
assume first
round.
round pick draft day or just saying like earlier
Oh,
in the
no,
year?
sorry, I mean earlier in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
year,
Gotcha.
right,
Yeah.
whereas then the season played out and more, like,
Yeah,
especially throwing questions popped up with
I
him.
was really curious to see where Curly was going to go on draft day because as a draft eligible sophomore, I wondered at what point was it going to be the Henry Ford route with him where he's just going to run it back in school and try to have a better season
Hmm.
and try again next year as like a true junior.
Do you think he
Um,
still could? Like, do you
I
think
don't think
Tennessee
so. I
No.
think Cleveland's going to get him signed. And I think if he looks at all the other hitters who have tried that, he probably should be better off just signing at 64 this year. I mean, maybe Tennessee can put together some ungodly NIL package. They would be one on the short list of colleges that could put together something pretty large. But I mean, it's a $1.38 million slot value. I think he should just probably
You
take
don't
that
think
and
Tennessee could
sign.
come up with maybe $1 million and then he goes
Getting into
back
one,
and
I mean, if Cleveland is trying to sign him on super underslot, I assume it's already worked out. if Dean expects to get slot, I don't know that he can expect to get $1.3 million on a single year NIL deal, even at Tennessee. That feels very rich to me.
He doesn't have to get
Um,
all of it though. You
he
get
doesn't. You're right.
some of it now, and then you go back. Like even if you
Look at
sign for
Ryan
less than that,
Prager. I mean, it's a
yeah,
hitter versus pitcher, so it's different. But I mean, I'll pull up and see how often Cleveland has not signed one of their players inside the top 10 rounds. But again, until I hear otherwise, I've got to assume these guys are signing. But if
I
you're
think I
him,
think I think you're right, but I also
yeah,
think if I'm Tennessee and I see where he went, then I'm like, hey, like what can we do to get this guy back? Like what kind of moves can we make to be a
sure.
really good college player?
Sure. If you're Tennessee, yeah, you should try that. But don't they have a lot of other really good shortstops in their team now from the high school side? I think they're gonna have a pretty good lineup regardless. But yeah, I don't see a top 10 round guy for Cleveland that they haven't signed yet. I'm in 2019 now, just kind of scanning back, but
It's a different world now.
that is true. And I do think if you wanted to say, hey, wanted to speculate and say because of the faster pace of this year on the second day of the draft, teams might get the error rate for teams and their signability could be lower in
Mm.
this current setup of the draft than previously. You don't have a day before every little run of rounds to get things locked in, whether it's you get sloppy or you get overly aggressive, or I could see that. But yeah, I will let you know if I find a single player that the Guardians haven't signed top 10 rounds. But if you have any other thoughts on the class, other than like on a more serious note, like it does feel like power is something that Cleveland found one. 2013, Ross Cavett, Kansas State, did not sign 10th round in Cleveland's 2013 draft. That's the one.
Wow, that was a lot of digging back to.
Yeah. Yeah. You know me, very thorough. I mean, but power clearly is something they're prioritizing more than previous drafts with Cleveland, or we just think that some of the guys that happen to slide to them happen to have more power and nothing more to it. But I feel like I'm kind of reimagining what feels like a Cleveland pick in my mind in real time.
Or is it just betting on guys with better track records from previous years who maybe had a down spring, but they think can bounce back with either something they can fix, or maybe they just thought they had bad luck this spring, or just ran into a cold stretch that's going to turn
Hmm.
around with a bigger sample size.
Yeah, that all could make sense too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Very
very
interesting
different.
draft for Cleveland, though.
Yes. Um, all right,
All right,
we'll
that's
skip.
our last real first round pick. So
Wow, you're not giving any credit to not
no,
calling
I
a
just,
PPI
I
pick.
just,
Yeah,
I
I
just mean we're at the final
know.
final teams with first picks, and for all this PPI, we've talked about them, so we can skip
Yeah.
on down to the Mets.
All right, Mets 38 taking Mitch Voigt. Seemed like there was a lot of chatter that he could go top 2 rounds, like on an underslot deal. Probably, I think it. He might have already. I think he actually has signed now as we just recorded this. But um, what did you think of what the Mets did?
Yeah, I mean the Mets did not have a lot of pick capital. They did not have a lot of
Right.
bonus money to work with. So, and yeah, that I don't know if it's been reported, but it sounds like that signing bonus is
Oh yeah, 175,
yeah 175.
t- 257 slot. So
Yeah, so about $800,000 of savings there. I mean, I don't particularly love this draft class for the Mets. I mean, maybe we're a little lighter on Mitch Voigt. We didn't rank him inside the top 100. We did hear that he was getting some second, third round buzz on draft day. If the Mets really liked him and don't have a second round pick, maybe you feel like you need to take him here at 38. But also Antonio Jimenez, their third round pick, like we had him ranked 400 plus. Again, like maybe this is a player we just had ranked too low, or the Mets like him better than we do. I mean, he did have a better offensive season this spring with Central Florida than he did a year ago with Miami, I believe. So, I mean, you're picking once in the top 100 picks. I shouldn't really like your draft class relative to all the other ones. So, when we're talking about grading these teams on a scale, given their pick capital, I would imagine it's like fairly low expectations for what the Mets were going to be able to bring together. I mean, Cam Tilly in the seventh round is interesting to some degree. He's bounced 97. I think Truman Polly, right-handed pitcher out of Harvard, in the 12th round. Has some really interesting fastball shape traits to like, but I don't know. If I was the Mets, I would have rather taken a shot on another hitter with my first overall pick, probably.
It does make sense for what the Mets have been, I guess, going back to last year, targeting like Carson Bench, very high in zone contact guy, good swing
Hmm.
decisions. Like Mitch Voigt, very high contact, probably
Yeah.
not empty, slaps hitting singles guy, but more hit over power, I would say,
Hmm.
with him. Um, a lot of guys at the Brewers used to take when Stearns was with the Brewers. So
Yeah,
um,
I mean, 13% strikeout rate this year, 15.3% walk rate, good contact skills across the board. I mean, he has solid tools across the board. He's a good runner. He's got a big arm. He's been up to 93 on the mound in the past.
younger too for he's still 20 years old, so younger for a
Hmm.
college junior. But I think the data, I'm sure, looks very good. At the same time, it is good. It's also a lot different when you're putting up those numbers in the Big Ten compared to the SEC. Just the caliber of arms is
Hmm.
significantly better in the SEC. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I thought I like to pick a little bit more than you did, I guess, but
Okay.
um, little less room for them to
Hmm.
maneuver. Same with the Yankees, obviously at
Yep.
39, picking there and then not picking again until 103
Yep.
in the third round. But first rounder, Dax Kilby, high school shortstop from Georgia. What did you think of what they did?
Yeah, I feel like I like the Yankees class a little more than the Mets, and a lot of that is just because they took players that our board had in a little bit more favorable spots. Dex Kilby is a guy who clearly was getting a lot of steam down on the stretch. I feel like both Kilby and Mitch Voigt were kind of up arrow players leading up to the draft. I happen to like Kilby a little bit more. I just think he's a really impressive hitter. The swing is really smooth and easy, loose. His approach has always been fairly impressive. The pitch recognition is advanced for his age. I think there's a little bit to dream on with the body with him. I think it's more hit over power now, but I think he can grow into solid game power. Probably not a shortstop for me. I think there's a lot of work to do with the arm. I think he's dealt with some arm injuries. The slot is not supernatural, but he can run around. Maybe he can play the outfield. But I like the hit power for him. I like some guys they took further on in the draft. Pico Cone was a solid performer. And then in the ninth round, I think Blake Gillespie at UNC Charlotte was really curious to see where he would go. I thought of him as like this kind of like 6 to 10 round bucket somewhere. Really high usage slider, but his performance this spring was pretty tremendous. He's been up to 95, and I think the breaking ball is a real weapon. So I like some of the names here to a greater degree than the Mets draft, but a lot of that is just me liking Kilby a little bit more than Voigt. Though to be fair, Kilby was also a little bit of an overdraft based on like purely where he ranked on our board. We had him more in like the third round range. So seems
Probably an
like
under slot type two,
yeah,
where you could get
I
him
would
under slot
think
and pay some of these other guys more later on.
yeah. I would think so, but then you also look down and you're like, who's the player who's getting all the money? Like he was the
Mm.
only high school player in their class. Everyone else is college. Um, so maybe Kilby just had a lot of potential landing spots around him. The Yankees really like him.
Mm.
I don't have a great read on whether or not that'll be over or under.
Yeah, I've liked Kilby for a while. I like the bat.
Mm,
I think he's going to hit. Um, I don't think it was like probably maybe like him more than where the perceived gap might be from where we have him ranked to where he went. But yeah, I like the I like him.
yeah.
And then finish it up. Dodgers picking it to 40 back to back 40-41. Keeping it in Arkansas. Lefty Zach Root, um, Charles Davalon, outfielder. Cam Leiter, I think a really interesting pick. Second rounder from Florida State, right-handed pitcher who just hasn't pitched due to injury. Some interesting high school guys. After that, um, obviously some limitations to where they're who's going to be available for them when you're picking at 40 overall as
Mhm.
your first pick. But what did you make of what they did with what was available to them?
I like the Dodgers draft quite a bit. Mostly because I think they just were still able to capture a lot of upside, a lot of tools, a lot of stuff, despite where they were picking. I mean, to get Cam Lighter stuff at 65, you have to have some sort of question mark. And with him, it's just like there are big health question marks. I know he was throwing a bullpens before the draft, like a week before the draft. So he's back and throwing, which is good. The Dodgers seem to really have no issues or fears taking pitchers like Cam Lighter with big stuff, but injury questions.
Hmm.
Landon Vidarek is definitely a reach for us in terms of just where he's at on the BA board versus where they took him in the third round. But he does have really loud secondary tools. He's got a lot of power. He's a good runner. He's got a good throwing arm. If you think he can hit in any capacity, he has a chance to be an impactful player. So he's a guy that probably is not going to be ranked too highly on a lot of public boards, but does have some real tools. Um, I think Aiden West with the Dodgers specifically is interesting. Their fourth round pick, a high school shortstop. Probably not a shortstop for me out of Maryland. And then Mason Legenza, a high school player out of Pennsylvania. Huge frame, 6'6", 210 pounds, big raw power, chance to have even more in the future, runs well. So big power, speed, physical, hitter to dream on. Those are some players that are kind of interesting with the Dodgers player development chops in particular. It's funny because like Zach Root and Charles Davalon, who they took 40-41, feel like kind of boring stock, safe-ish college profiles. And then they loaded up on some tools and some upside after that. Like Root I think at 40 is really solid value. Well-rounded pitch mix, good feel for the secondaries, above average control, performance in the SEC, multiple years of performance as a starter before that at ECU, just super well-rounded, nothing plus. And then Davalon, really loud contact quality, maybe some of the best contact skills in the class. Him and Caden Bodine, more hit over power, but can run around a little bit. If he could play center, that would be great. I think there's a chance maybe he's like a left field profile, which would put some more pressure on him, unlocking some power. But it's funny to think of like them taking what I see as like safe-ish college profiles first, and then loading up on some more upside and risky plays later.
Well, I know Jacob will really like the Zach Root pick. He's interesting to me. A lefty with a who throws hard, but his fastball doesn't get a lot of swing and miss. But then it's a pretty deep pitch
Yeah.
mix of stuff that does get empty swings on a lot of different other pitches, a couple breaking balls,
Hmm.
change up as well.
He's not
Uh,
all that different to like what I viewed Parker Messick as coming out of college, like a very strong strike thrower with quality secondaries. Who the fastball is just kind of a fine pitch.
but I wonder if the Dodgers or anybody else that would have drafted him can figure out a way to tweak something about his fastball to because there's velocity there. I mean, he's up to
He
98.
he started throwing a little harder too. He was like sitting 93 this year, which is rock solid for a lefty in
Yeah,
college.
so I wonder if there's something they can do to make a small adjustment, maybe that helps his fastball play a little bit better with a grip adjustment, release adjustment, something in there. Because look, I like a really appealing fastball shape too, but I think sometimes they make a little bit too big of a deal of it with pitchers
With
sometimes,
fouls and percent.
as if it's like the static fastball that movement profile that they will have for the rest of their life and they will never change.
Right. I
And I
agree.
think of the high school guys, yeah, Mason Legenza is really interesting. Just big frame, a lot of tools there to build upon and hope everything comes together. So I was always surprised that he was like a Pittsburgh commit because he seems like one of the bigger. I guess I don't know. No disrespect to Pittsburgh, just felt like he could get a lot
Wow,
of
shots fired.
SEC type schools, but obviously Pennsylvania guy. They were on him early, and now it sounds like they're going to be not getting him to campus anyway. So
Hmm.
it's unfortunate for them, but yeah, he's an interesting guy to me.
For sure. Cool. Well, that's every team. Any final thoughts, Ben, or you think 2 hours and 40 minutes is enough for the people?
Yeah, no, that was part one. Now we're now we're gonna do the 11th to 20th round picks for every team,
Ben will
and
be monologuing by himself. I will not be joining him on that podcast.
no, now we got our 2026 board up, top 100 for 2026. We got our by the time this is up, we should have our top 200 high school player update for 2026 as well. So um, it's interesting because Eli Willits, Eli Willits, Steele Hall, Cruz Schoolcraft, 3 first round picks were all previously in the 2026 class, as was Quentin Young, who went in the second round.
Mm,
And obviously Eli Willits went 1-1. I mean, if I'm putting him in our 2026 board, he's going behind for sure Rock Chalowski.
great reclass decision, Eli.
He's going
Nice job.
behind Grady Emerson. He's going behind Jacob Lombard, 2 high school shortstops. Like this is going to be a really good draft next year, especially with
26
Rock
sounds insane.
with
Rock is
Rock on the college side. Yeah,
one of the better college position player prospects we've seen in years. I mean, I think he is like one of the best college shortstop prospects since Dansby Swanson and Alex Bregman in 2015. I scanned back just at the top shortstop options. There's some good players, Jacob Wilson, Nick Madrigal, but like in terms of well-rounded profile, tool set, upside, impact, defense, like he checks all the boxes. And the high school class seems utterly absurd right now.
yeah, really, really like the high school class. College class seems solid after Rock. I don't know if it's like
The college class the more I've dug into the college class so far, beyond Rock, I got a lot of questions about those dudes. I think there's some real holes they need to figure out before next year, but I'm all in on the high schoolers.
yeah, but I think there's the guys good pro like we
Yeah.
do have we do have more good college shortstops. Again, they have some questions, but like
Mhm.
Justin LeBron or Tyler Bell, I
Mhm.
mean, those are two pretty. Those guys could both be top 10
Yep.
overall picks, and teams are gonna if they keep hitting, and then
Yeah.
LeBron's keep
And if Derek
you know,
Curiel just eats all offseason, I could easily see him in that range too.
I don't know. He seems like the kind of guy who could eat all off season and not gain a pound. So,
Right,
uh,
right, right.
but he's yeah, I mean, a super talented hitter and really
Mhm.
instinctive defender too.
Yeah,
So
excited to see him slide over to center field and play that next year.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
All
All
right.
right. Well, we'll be getting into the weeds on 26 in the future. For all of you guys who listen to this full podcast, you're a real draftnik, and we appreciate you. And you probably also listened to our draft preview show, and so you probably were not surprised when everyone else was when Eli Willis went 1-1. So congrats to you for being locked in. And seriously, we do appreciate all the support for Baseball America subscribers on the site. We had a really strong week this week for the draft. One of the biggest days of the year for us, obviously, and it was a good one. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening to the show, and yeah, we'll be back for a lot more. Ready to go for 2026 now.
Yeah, hitting the road for what East Coast Pro area codes.
Yeah, East Coast and
Doesn't
area codes will be my big ones.
yeah, nice. All right.
Cool. All right, for Ben, I'm Carlos. We'll see you guys next time. So long.